Great to be here. It's great to talk to some of the incredible people that we have, both at the local level, the Texas state level, and also...
Enhance. Enhance. Enhance.
Lowered expectation.
Is a man less of a man if he can't change a flat tire?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is a woman less of a woman if she can't cook a meal from scratch?
George Orwell once wrote that it's not a matter of whether the war is not real or if it is. Victory is not possible. The war is not meant to be won. It is meant to be continuous. A hierarchical society is only possible on the basis of poverty and ignorance. This new version is the past, and no different past can ever have existed. In principle, the war effort is always planned to keep society on the brink of starvation. The war is waged by the ruling group against its own subjects, and its object is not the victory over either Eurasia or East Asia, but to keep the very structure of society intact.
Welcome to The Independent Review, a weekly podcast where we bring you the latest from the world of independent journalism.
You ain't artsier than me, cause you got sideburns and a vintage tee. I said you ain't artsier than me, cause you pluck a guitar, that ain't fucking bizarre. You ain't artsier than me, cause you live in Los Feliz, bitch, you ain't Jesus. You ain't artsier than me, I got a colorful vocab, watch the low jab. So what, you're a vegan, it shows in your presence, you be geeking. And you've been seeking the same light, speaking the game like the enemy. Hang tight, I got a tail about 6'1" by infinity, full of sun, rain, and potential energy. All you saw were the K, Swiss, clean, Chris, crease, jeans, means this. So you thought and dip, my walk's hip, thoughts hipper, unzip the zipper. No, I don't wear hemp or drink liquor, and that don't make me the man, just a little bit sicker. Spit kicker with a knife of the Big Dipper, from an island cliff emerges a loud whisper. And I'm proud of this, it's my art. You doing yoga just to look the part. You ain't artsier than me, cause you chop up breaks and you dig in the crates. You ain't artsier than me, you just a trendy lesbian, dreadlock thespian. You ain't artsier than me, cause you make weed brownies and knit wool hats. You ain't artsier than me, you pseudo-elitist, old school sap.
Welcome to the Independent Review, live on the AM Wakeup channels on Rumble, Odyssey, Rockfin, and on Twitter on the Indie News Network. Let's jump to this first clip that was posted yesterday from Carey Wedler.
Anyone else feel like they're watching their fellow humans fall into a trance and throw themselves off a cliff as they fall under a new propaganda spell convincing them the oligarchs have come to the rescue, the government is now the good guy, and America's
Golden age. Golden age. Golden age. Golden age. Golden age. Golden age.
has arrived? The trance goes like this. Tulsi is the director of national intelligence, RFK Jr. is going to make us healthy, and Elon and the Doge are exposing corruption and waste. Cash is now the top cop. There's a task force released classified documents, and Trump froze foreign aid. America's back. And the new ruling class is here to liberate and protect us while taking out the deep state. Finally, we're saved. It's tempting and it sounds miraculous. Until you look past the shadows on the wall to the character and behaviors of those casting them. While it's great and not hard at all or revelatory to expose government waste and corruption, how is Elon going to handle his own surveillance state and military-industrial contracts? Will SpaceX face scrutiny for buying bipartisan influence in the broken system he and the oligarchy now rail against? How is Doge any match for the current House Republican budget proposal, which is slated to increase the deficit by hundreds of billions each year? The Senate overwhelmingly voted against an amendment to make significant spending cuts to their version of the astronomical budget. Is a public-private partnership with some of the most powerful tech people who are pushing biometric digital IDs and envisioning total surveillance taking down the deep state? Is advancing artificial intelligence in government, especially in the military and the CIA, to the benefit of Silicon Valley tycoons what MAGA voted for? Are mRNA AI cancer shots and poultry injections Maha? Is the new seed oil shilling deputy director of the USDA? Fun fact, RFK Jr. does not oversee the USDA. Meanwhile, Patel vows to punish journalists when the government decides they've done bad things. And about those classified documents, the most transparent administration in history promised you. Trump, quote, banned CBDCs only to promote them with an extra step. It's cool Trump said he wants to cut defense spending. He also recently said,
we want to raise defense spending. I think we have to have it.
The new Senate Republican budget proposal allows for $150 billion more for the military in the next 9 years. Meanwhile, Trump is funneling literal tons of weapons to Israel. He claims the US will annex Gaza, and his entire cabinet is packed with Israel bootlicking shills while he orders a multi-billion-dollar Iron Dome built over America. By the way, Biden launching airstrikes against terrorists is unconstitutional, but Trump doing it is extraordinary leadership. A government agency is looking to monitor speech for criticism of said government agency. Trump is attempting to silence speech for his handlers and just shut down a police accountability database. He's also expanding Guantanamo, a black stain on American values. His King neocon-endorsed CIA director won't reject the use of torture, but Trump's Wall Street Secretary of Commerce did say his goal is to abolish the IRS, and paying higher prices caused by government intervention is now patriotic. So bend the knee. I get that people want to feel optimistic. The ruling class has beaten them down, made them feel othered, dehumanized, and disempowered. People of all partisan persuasions have been conditioned to believe they can't save themselves, that they need politicians and oligarchs to liberate them. And because of
We, the people, are the government.
indoctrination pushed in civics, they believe these politicians and oligarchs and the authoritarian state they rule over are actually extensions of themselves. This is a recipe for the most extreme dystopia yet. The propaganda is top tier, and the masses are now being showered with signs of hope and change, just enough that many of them will look the other way at the rapid progression of the technocratic police state and the further consolidation of power in the hands of a few. These types call anyone who questions their new narratives black-pilled. But black-pilled means cynical and negative, and many of us questioning the new regime are anything but. We simply don't believe real solutions come from government and the documented liars and megalomaniacs in control of it. Or that a few crumbs of winning will counteract the grave threats to liberty imposed by those at the top, as they always have been. And don't even think about calling me a libtard. I'm more anti-government than any MAGA bot. And my skepticism doesn't change based on who's in power. If you're watching this rapid descent into cultism and feeling disturbed and disheartened, please know you're not alone. Many of us out here aren't falling for the new regime's propaganda and will continue to question and resist government authority regardless of who's in control of it. Those of us who understand that government and the people who seek control of it aren't coming to save us will keep pushing back against the smoke and mirrors. MAGA may be celebrating their new masters in chains, but some of us don't want masters in chains for ourselves or anyone else.
Now, let's take a look at this clip from the Indie News Network with Indy and Reese.
Give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.
Who are these people?
This is an interesting piece that I brought from Carey Wedler. I don't know if you guys know who she is. She's an independent. I saw her on Slow News Day of the Deck, and how it's not really a we're not really dismantling anything. How we're not really dismantling even the Defense Department. You know, this Pete Hegseth thing, where Hegseth is ordering 40%, 8% cuts across the board. It's bullshit. They're just shit. This week, many are cheering Kash Patel's Senate approval for FBI director. Between their rise to power and the flurry of headlines around Elon Musk's Doge, many Americans feel hopeful about the country's apparent new trajectory, which is insane. Many are celebrating that the deep state is finally going down because they're believing the lies being sold to them by the deep state. Interestingly, however, there is this Bush Attorney General John Ashcroft, who shamelessly peddled the Patriot Act when he was in power. Ashcroft even... Go ahead.
Sorry.
Ashcroft even spoke on Ratcliffe's behalf at the CIA confirmation hearing in January, lending him his profound support, which to me immediately should have been disqualifying. If John Ashcroft is behind you, you need to think about the release of information regarding the Saudi state-sanctioned murder of Jamal Khashoggi.
Don't
journalist.
be rude.
While he challenged the prevailing establishment narratives about Trump and Russia and promoted the COVID lab leak theory after Trump left off, navigating the healthcare system. Dude, I remember that. That's a great episode.
Yeah, it is.
South Park.
Anyway.
They serve so AGS serves clients in defense, aerospace, automotive, maritime, technology, energy, finance, and private equity. In other words, some of the most politically entrenched industries. Okay, the firm's leadership embodies the insidious relationship between government and the private. Enough. He also called out Biden for not supporting Ukraine early enough.
Right.
Further, Ratcliffe highlights largely the same threats the establishment does: Iran, China, and North Korea, to name a few. I'm guessing he'll throw Mexico and Venezuela in there too. Probably Cuba.
Oh, Mexico.
Unsurprisingly, former Trump-appointed CIA Director Mike... No, it's not. It's this one. It's Kathleen. All right, back to the article. This is not exactly the disruptor that so many are celebrating in Kennedy and Gabbard and Patel, who all have their own hypocrisies, and she's done pieces on them. Unlike these establishment personalities, Ratcliffe handily won the
Potter, right? No?
No, that's
Radcliffe?
That's Daniel Radcliffe with a D.
Gotcha.
No.
So anyway,
no.
Back to this Ratfuck guy. What?
No Expelliarmus.
What about Ratfuck?
Yes, his name is John Ratfuck. That's right. It's just not clear that the plan and crusade are consistent with dismantling the power and reach of a CIA needs to be active in the war on drugs and the border crisis. So there's the Mexico angle and Venezuela, echoing the Trump administration's aggressive stance on cartels and border security. Indeed, it was reported this week that CIA is now flying surveillance drones over Mexico at the apparent request of Mexico's president, who's cooperated with Trump over tariff threats. They got Scheinbaum in line, oligarchs who are going all in on military-industrial profiteering. Per official disclosures, after concluding his stint as Trump's DNI, Ratfuck worked in an advisory role for multiple artificial intelligence companies that contract with the U.S. government. I wonder if the military was involved there. Contracting with the Air Force to enable swarms of drones and aircraft to operate autonomously without GPS communications or a pilot. With a project
What could go wrong?
With a project called HiveMind. I believe this reminded me of Reese and Colin did a segment about an AI drone, and Colin was absolutely freaked out. The look on his face when they send the drone and it explodes. His broader belief in the role of AI in government. This is important. His broader belief in the role of AI in government is on its own a cause for concern. As with the continuance of revolving door dynamics, this is a perpetuation of the agency's pre-existing priority of incorporating artificial intelligence. Some might protest, like you do. Some might protest that Ratcliffe will answer at the changing of the guard. While it appears on the surface that a great transformation for the better is occurring, it is vital to stay vigilant and critical. Amen. The authoritarian technocracy continues to advance at the same time as restrictions on speech, continued militarism, Carey, Carey _Wedler, Wedler. Go give her a follow on Twitter. She's great. I would like to make an appeal to everyone. If you are able and are of means, please support the media you want to see. These people already have. Thank you so much to everybody who has supported and tipped us and hooked us up. This week, I remember clearly Charlie Mack on Friday night, as well as Sean, tip us, hook us up with a couple of bucks. Reef needs some weed money. I just got a mic stand. It's so crazy. You know, I've been doing this so long, and my mic has always sat on my desk. And finally, I broke down and I said, "All right, I'm gonna get one of those like kind of arms that clamps to the side of the desk and free up the space." I wouldn't say that, but Carnival in April. We're gonna see if we can make that happen, or they may schedule another Third Eye Carnival later on in the year, closer to him, an event that he can more easily attend. Third Eye Carnival is a weekend camping trip hangout where there are podcasters, musicians, comedians all come together. We do not have promo codes. We do not do ad reads. We do not do sponsorships. We are here because we feel like that is potentially compromising. If you are, hesitant to criticize somebody that an advertiser might like, or criticize an advertiser directly, or criticize, there's just a lot of potential conflicts of interest that can be brought up, and not necessarily defended, but also not go hard on things that we know that they would ordinarily go hard on. And I don't want to see that happen here. So that's why we need you to help keep us honest so that we can help keep everybody else honest. Because we say fuck the CIA, we get demonetized on YouTube. And these amazing people have already helped out our channel.
Your children will disappoint you. The system is rigged. Your house will never be completely clean. All teachers are incompetent. There are people who really dislike you. Nothing is as good as it seems. Things don't last. No one is paying attention. The country is dying. God doesn't care. Shh.
Support independent media.
Now, let's take a look at this clip from Lee Camp.
This is definitely a somber note, but I think, these type of people that make the ultimate sacrifice to draw people's attention to the horror we're creating around the world, I think we should try and remember them. I believe I covered each of the four, and yes, there were four getting attention for Gaza, about what we were doing in Gaza, about the G side in Gaza, and one or two of them survived. One was a journalist who lit his arm on fire, and I think specifically said he was, lighting his arm on fire intentionally. So there's four, and I think we should, not forget these people. I think we should remember them. And Aaron Bushnell was perhaps the most well-known one because he was active duty military and went in front of, I think, the White House. Here's a little, this looks like it was put together by Massachusetts Peace Action. I don't know much about them, but it's a very cool little tribute to Aaron Bushnell. It's just a minute and a half, so I'm going to play this.
I am an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be more.
Yeah, ultimate sacrifice to get people to pay attention to what we're doing and we're funding in Gaza. Truly is revolting what the U.S. empire will do for power, for greed, for oil, and for everything else. So rest in power, Aaron Bushnell. But on a good note, the ICC, or I guess others, have referred to the ICC, Biden and Trump, not sure if you've heard of those fellas, for complicity in Israel's G-side in Gaza. A nonprofit organization has urged the International Criminal Court to investigate former President Joe Biden for fueling Israel's G-side against Palestinians in Gaza, and it has highlighted the role of current President Donald Trump, too. Democracy for the Arab World Now isn't exactly a radical organization, having previously received ample corporate funding to submit a 172-page request to the ICC, which calls for accountability for Biden, along with his Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. It documents Washington's $17.9 billion of weapons transfers, intelligence support, and political protection for Israel's genocidal war crimes. And it claims the Biden administration officials did so in full knowledge of their allies' crimes, their accessorial roles in aiding and abetting, as well as intentionally contributing to Israeli war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Trump isn't just obstructing justice, he's trying to burn down the courthouse to prevent anyone from holding Israeli criminals accountable. There are solid grounds to investigate Joe Biden, Antony Blinken, Lloyd Austin for complicity. Not only did Biden, Blinken, and Secretary Austin ignore and justify the overwhelming evidence of Israel's grotesque and deliberate crimes, overruling their own staff recommendations to halt weapons transfers to Israel, they doubled down by providing Israel with unconditional military and political support to ensure it could carry out its atrocities. Their public support justifying Israeli atrocities helped ensure popular sympathy for Israeli war crimes, crimes against humanity, and G-side. So, Canary reporting on that, another great outlet. Yeah, it's good to, I hope they get to spend some time in court. That'd be lovely. We could follow it on our TVs like the OJ trial. It'd be exciting. It would bring the nation together. We get to watch those war criminal clowns in court. Oh, that'd be wonderful. I hope we see the day.
Next, we have this clip from the What is Truth podcast with host Wheezy and his guest Steve Poikonen.
We will shut off the machinery that feeds money into Iran. We will no longer have 100 hostages still in captivity, Israeli and American and otherwise, by Hamas and Iran's Hezbollah mercenary forces. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel. We will shut.
Get the fuck out of here, bro.
Go. Like, that's
our number one ally. We need to protect our number one ally, guys. Yes.
I've been saying from day one that this is the bait and switch administration, and they just keep doing all kinds of things to make that a more and more accurate nickname.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super strange, man.
You watch Bongino cry on air? I had both Alex Stein and Scott Ritter cry on my show.
Oh man. Yeah, these guys are all actors, man. That's the thing. And so to the people that have been following me for a while, or Steve, for that same matter, we all already know what's up. So a lot of times I like to bring up things for newer listeners, people that are just jumping in. That's what I did with the moon landing show last night. It was, a lot of simpler stuff because not everyone is up to speed. And so that's why it's important to in an effort to reach new people and help them understand things a little bit clearer. We bring up these little things. I did want to mention let me play this, the Trump Zelensky WWE shit too, man. That was hilarious. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Now that I have you here, Steve, let's play this. I'm not going to play the entire clip, but let's listen to. So for those people that missed it or didn't hear it, let's give a little taste of the theatrics here.
Litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? Did you say what problems we have?
I have been to. I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning. Sure. First of all, during the war, Everybody has problems, even you. But you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position to
this
dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this.
I'm not
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Today.
You went.
Holy shit, bro.
Now go get your fucking shine box.
Like the fact that some people think that shit's real, man. Like it's so fucking phony, man. Like people forget that Zelensky was a goddamn actor. Trump is a goddamn actor. Now JD Vance, I don't know about his acting shit, but he wears fucking eyeliner. So I guess we could put him in the fucking actor category.
He's a highly creative individual, that's for sure. He is. And so like you can pick up acting pretty quickly, especially if you're studying under masters. And Congress is a master class on how to be an actor who was too ugly to get into Hollywood.
I got that clip. Is there a specific timestamp you want me to?
I do. We can jump around on it a little bit. We can.
All right.
But yeah, this is the I guess what foundation for what we just saw.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just listening in audio only. What we just saw was Donald Trump's presentation at WWE, where he's acting all pissed off and doing a damn good part. He's hilarious.
He is. And you know, he's one of the more legendary actors of our time.
You got to give it to him, man.
With De Niro and Gary Oldman.
That's the thing, man. You can say whatever you want, and I talk a lot of shit about him, but you can't deny he's an absolute character and hilarious. I mean, I played that clip or you saw the video I made, right, with the MASH theme song of Trump.
Yeah.
Fight, and then ducking and weaving just like they did in the MASH under the helicopter. That's why I put the two together for those people that may have missed that. That's the whole MASH theme song, Donald Trump. I don't see why you did it. That's why. As soon as I saw the fight, ducking and doing the Hitler salute and leaving, that reminded me of the MASH theme song where they're ducking under, to get away from the rotor wash of the helicopter. I'm like, holy shit. That was right there when I was like, this shit is fake as hell. And to later hear Donald Trump at the RNC, my hand was covered in blood. When there's clearly no fucking blood on his hand. I mean, he said
his like whole face, and yeah, just he literally covered in blood. So much blood.
Yeah, and there was none. Just a little streak on his cheek,
and it splattered the wrong way from where they said the angle of the shot was supposed to be.
Oh man, it's theatrics on the global stage 100%. It's bananas. So any interesting takeaways with the Zelensky Trump meeting? I mean, for me it was clearly bullshit, clearly staged, and they're gonna get their money anyways. They're just trying to make it sound like he's being tougher than Biden. That's really it's really the optics, but they're still getting money. You know?
So there's a couple of different things, because the elephant in the room was Vladimir Putin, and the Trump administration is trying to varying degrees renormalize relations with Moscow. But the other thing is, on the domestic front, it ratcheted up the division. And now there were people who protested who busted into a Tesla dealership in New York to be like, Elon's a Nazi, blah, 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 blah. And I saw a video of different protesters, or maybe they were the same ones, you don't know, they get busted around a lot, up in Vermont where JD Vance was taking his family, and they were protesting on the way to the lodge. And it's like, well, there's one road up to it, so all along the side of the road were all these JD is a Nazi, we stand with Ukraine, and they were like quote unquote spontaneous, we stand with Ukraine protests that erupted in a couple of major liberal cities right afterwards. It's decent theater, but it does have that effect to where, people become more and more divided, and that's one of the intents.
Yeah. That's really the entire point right there. And that's why I kind of started the show with warning people. If you're on the left-right shit, you're probably not going to like a lot of the shit I talk about, because I like to shit on both sides, and no one is absolved. It's all a bunch of shit. And then you and I think along the same lines. So yeah, that's what it is. It's just hard truth. And lately the term black-pilled has been weaponized in a way where, oh yeah, don't listen to those guys, they're just black-pilled. Trump is going to drain the swamp. These Epstein files are going to contain lots of new information. It's a bunch of horse shit, bro. Mm-hmm. And you need to snap out of it. If you still find your place that the Republican Party is going to save you, you need to snap out of that little place in your mind and do it quick, man, because the truth of the matter is there ain't no one out here to save us.
Next, we take a look at this clip from the New Prisoners podcast with host and number 6.
Or if anybody wants to jump on, sound off on anything, appreciate some input. But if not, I'll gladly take another recommendation for another topic we should jump into. Check on the TMP Telegram group, see what the fuck is going on there. Hell yeah. Oh, Greg, tell you what, let's take a quick smoke break and put this on, because after my own heart here, this is my fucking childhood. This is a famous scene. Stop screen. I got to do the right screen. Present it with the shit. Boom. Enjoy.
My cousin now, I'm gonna knock those boots again tonight. Oh, look who it is, the fucking human vacuum.
Scumbag, what are you doing?
No, just saying I saw Bob and his cousin.
He's your cousin?
Yeah, and he's from Russia, too.
No way. What part of Russia?
I don't fucking know. Don't I look like his fucking biographer? Oh, what part of Russia you from?
Moscow. He only speaks Russian?
Nah, I speak some English, but he cannot speak it good like we do.
Is he staying here?
Nah, he's moving to the big city this week. He wants to be a metal singer.
No way.
Swear, Olaf Metal. That's his fucking metal face. Olaf, girl, nice.
Scarlet.
That's fucked up, man.
What did he say?
I don't know, man, but this guy's a character.
He really wants to play metal?
Yeah, he's got his own band in Moscow. It's called Fuck Your Yankee Blue Jeans or something like that.
That doesn't sound metal.
You gotta hear him sing Olaf Berserker. Come on, man, Berserker.
Does he sing in English or Russian?
In English. Come on, Berserker. Girls think sexy. I'll watch, wait, he's gonna sing and watch, it's too funny.
My love for you is like a truck berserker. Would you like some making fuck berserker?
That's fucking funny, man.
Did he say making fuck?
My love for you is ticking clock, berserker. Would you like to suck my cock, berserker?
That's beautiful, man.
Admittedly, that is also me every time somebody tries to show me their music in like an awkward situation, especially if it's like on their fucking phone and it's coming out their terrible ass phone speakers, like at a show when other people are talking or something in the background. It's like, yeah, check this out, man. And it's like, because it's, all fucking too loud. But anyway, so Tom said he's coming. Congratulations, sir. Absolutely, Greg. It is beautiful. Good old Snowball. Fuck yeah, man. So, Matt Finley says, I watched the 4:30 movie recently. I assumed it was 4:20 Coming from Kevin Smith. Missed opportunity. Pav says it's garbage, but it's fun. Okay. I've definitely always been a fan of the Kevin Smith. Going way back. That so much of it was provided to them through their medical care to give them penile implants. Like that was part of like the expose in the article or whatnot. But while searching for that, this came up, and I haven't heard about this in the past 5 days or whenever the fuck this came out. I guess there's been rumor that Elon Musk had a botched penis implant. I didn't hear that, but I don't know how. I mean, I don't know. If
Why would
Slate
he even
sent
care what his
somebody out to
penis
measure
looks
it.
like? He's not fucking these broads that he's getting pregnant.
Is he
Was it
just?
recent? Let's see what's the
What is he doing? Is he using like a slingshot?
No, dude, they're all fucking they're fucking turkey baster kids, dude.
Oh, okay.
Or fucking clones. I think they're fucking clones, personally. That's just my opinion, but
And not to confuse anybody, we're just talking about the country turkey prior, but now we're talking about gobble gobble turkey.
yeah.
And basting it with Elon.
Baster.
Yep.
He just had another one, dude. Some broad he was with. He's just had another one of his kids.
Yeah, I believe it
within
was his
recently,
14th.
last couple of days.
He's catching up to Flavor Flav, man. I guess he was a big Flavor of Love fan, Elon, back in the day.
Got you.
I remember watching that show. It was sorry for the
Well, maybe that's
first
why
one's
he's doing the
emergency.
turkey baster, and because his penis doesn't work anymore. I don't know. Or
Yeah,
maybe he's just a fucking clone, because that's what I think he is. I don't think he's a human.
Well, according to Slate, his penis is just fine. I don't know how they determined that, but it says, let's get this out of the way as they move Elon's penis out of their mouth. There is no evidence whatsoever that Elon Musk has a penile implant. That is a completely unsubstantiated rumor, signal boosted by the rapper and eternal troublemaker Azealia Banks. Okay, I'm completely out of that culture. Anybody have any clue who the fuck Azealia Banks is?
No fucking idea.
All right. I'll
Anybody
move
in
on.
the chat?
Yeah, if anybody in the chat knows who the fuck Azealia Banks is, who has dedicated a sizable portion of her posting career to the haranguing of America's foremost evil rich guy. She is not the only one, as Musk's brutal disfiguration of the federal government takes hold. A fleet of shit posters has floated the idea that he has a botched penis implant, which they assert is why he seems to have undertaken the project of repopulating the globe with his own children, delivered via, yeah, you were right, Tom, in vitro fertilization. This talking point picked up steam earlier this month after confirmation that Musk welcomed his 13th baby with conservative influencer Ashley St. Clair. However, according to a lawsuit filed by St. Clair that accuses Musk of being an absentee father, it seems as if the child was created the old-fashioned way. I apologize for that mental image, it says in the article. Wow. Get a little on the side there, Elon. It says, whatever the point is, Banks posted a massively viral tweet claiming that singer Grimes, the mother of 3 of Musk's kids, told her that he had some sort of defective robot penis.
He's a fucking clone.
I'm just
Fucking robot
imagining
penis.
he pulls his shit out. It's like beep boop, beep boop, beep boop. You know,
starts lighting up and shit. Dude, these people are fucking weird, Six. Whatever these people are into, they're just fucking weirdos, man.
But that's what makes this plausible. Like when you have a rumor spread around like this, and God knows who started it or why. I mean, it could have came from anywhere. It could have came from a fucking, a 10-year-old.
Right.
Especially me when I was 10. Oh God. If I had access to the internet like this, like these days, geez. But no, I mean, with something like this shit, I mean, these people are that fucking weird where I can imagine that he definitely has a robot penis because he thought it would be it would solve some of his problems with performance, and then it got botched, and then he just became like the Michael Jackson's nose of penises, and it's like the fucking Andrew Lloyd Webber version of Phantom of the Opera. Like just like the way that disfigured part of the Phantom's face looks like, that's what Elon's cock looks like. Now cue the music.
I wonder if he has a little mask for it.
Yeah, the little Phantom.
Little sock puppet.
Oh God.
Or put a fucking carrot at the end of the tip and shit.
Oh, if we had the capacity, I swear, I would definitely want Yona to help me out with this, of doing like a version of the Phantom of the Opera music to a skit like that, where Elon reveals his Phantom of the Opera robot penis. And
that's just good TV right there, Six.
Oh man, yeah, we'll get there eventually, folks. We are building a crew to.
How many kids does he have now? What is that? 12?
13 or 14.
Yeah, he's on 13 or 14. We've lost.
Man, and he doesn't know much about condoms. He said he sent them to Gaza, Africa, and went to Africa. They needed to send him to his house, I guess. But I don't know.
Yeah, close.
With the opera penis.
He had close ties to Epstein, dude.
I mean, they claim that he is a genius. And
that guy's not a fucking genius, dude. I'm sorry. Come on.
I mean, the thing is, do you trust a guy to fly you to Mars that can't figure out how to put a condom on? Or do you trust a guy that just doesn't put condoms on? Like, what kind of man is he really?
Right.
Not very smart, man. He sounds like he has some kind of a mental disorder just by the way he talks. I don't know. It doesn't sound normal to me, or maybe it's just like a misfit, dysfunctional around people type personality. That's this really high IQ, but I don't even think he has a high IQ.
No, I don't either.
He doesn't sound technical about anything that he says either. Does he to you?
I mean, that could also be
heard
purposeful. That could also be purposeful because, like, you don't want to talk past people, I guess. But we do have a response from the chat here about the Azealia Banks, but we'll come to that in a second. But no, I mean, I'm not one of those anymore that like goes out of my way to do a deep dive on some of these characters where I'm constantly watching their interviews or their interactions, and so I can kind of gauge like who they are through their mannerisms and other things like that. But I did watch I guess it's the first of the interviews that Joe Rogan did with Elon years back. And I wasn't impressed with anything that he said or did on that. And granted, I've been around some really smart and talented people that also don't have social skills. Right. So there is that too. Like there is an element to people's personalities that just sometimes it's just completely missing, and they will shock you at their levels of aptitude in other areas. But they just don't seem to get people or how to speak to them.
He's a party boy. I know that. My brother hung out with him in Baja California, not this past New Year's, but the New Year's prior. And he likes to hang out. He's very social. When he was hanging out with my brother,
Oh yeah,
and
when the
they
cocaine's flowing,
they were
everybody's
together.
social.
They started, yeah, there was a lot of that going on, a lot of designer things going on. But I talked to him at around 8 o'clock that evening before New Year's. And then when I got up the next morning, they were still up and they had already flown to Tahoe.
Jesus.
So, yeah, he's a party boy.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of
He showed me
parties,
pictures, but he sent a picture, but he was like, I can't take any pictures with Elon, but I'm gonna take one from far away, and then he'll be in the background. So he sent me that on his like massive like building house that he lives in. He has in Baja California. Gosh, what's the name of that town? It's right at the tip of Baja. But yeah, then I hear him speak in public, and he doesn't sound like how he sounds in normal life, I guess.
I mean, when it comes to the mannerisms and how he speaks is one thing, but also like look at the success rate that he has in certain things. Like I don't think that Tesla could possibly survive right now without all of the government fuckery that promotes it, and just like this locking or chaining us to this commitment in order to switch our infrastructure and our grid over to certain things that, of course, centralize them, to a certain, minority hands, so we can continue living under a system of dependence. And really, I was thinking today, just while out driving, that how different the world would be without that system of dependence. Like what traveling from community to community would be like, what America would look like if we didn't live off of a giant energy grid, infrastructure grid. Like if you made it more individual, that all of us could have our own resources and barter with each other about resources, like, and had more control over that. And also awareness of it. Like most of us live in an existence where we work for somebody, we make a living, we take care of our families. But when it comes down to it, though, like we're not really involved in what helps us sustain life, as far as like bartering with the resources that we all have, like in need, whether it be energy or food, so many different aspects of life that are just, we're dependent on a system to provide that to us. And it's so far centralized and so big and so out of our control. Yes.
Well, I
Now we take a look at this clip from the Ripple Effect podcast with host Ricky Verandas and his guest Don Jeffries.
That's it. So Mark Lane, was he the first one to kind of expose you into all these alternative theories of JFK? And then let's get into, because that really was like, I guess my generation, I'm turning 40 in April, like 9/11 was one of those big red pill moments for us. But when I got into 9/11 and I started, I guess dissecting history and being like, okay, well, if they lied to us about this, what else historically have they lied? I'm sure this isn't the first lie. It's probably the first of many lies. Going back, and JFK was one of those things where when you uncover it, and I've had Abraham Bolden on years ago. He was, I think Mark Lane was one of the people who motivated him to write his book, Echoes of Plaza. I had James D'Eugenio on, who's been on to talk about all the assassinations in the 60s. Jeff Morley's been on. I've had a bunch of people throughout. It's always been one of those those stories and historical events that a lot of people are like, why do you keep talking about it? Like, why do you, it's like we know it's a conspiracy, but it's like, I guess I feel like people need to understand that if that can happen, then there's nothing out of the realm of possibility. There's no lie to assassinate a democratically elected president in broad daylight, and then all the layers of that. When people say, "Oh, if it was a conspiracy, somebody would have talked," it's like in many cases, if you do enough research, there's whistleblowers everywhere. They're typically suppressed, murdered, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone would have talked. That's the argument I get all the time with everything, JFK or anything else. And lots of people have talked, and many of them have been murdered, ostracized. I mean, you look today, Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning. What happened to them? They talked, and you saw it happen. So that's ridiculous to think that. But JFK is still important because, and I wrote hidden history from the JFK assassination up through the Obama years because that's when it was published. Trump wasn't even on the radar at that point, amazingly enough. But people reminded me it didn't start with JFK, and of course it didn't. So then I wrote my third book, Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, 1776 to 1963, which the great Ron Paul wrote the foreword to. And that, was a prequel, but it reminded people that this goes back as far as we can remember. I started the American Revolution and went all the way through the 1950s. So it didn't start with JFK. It's just for my generation. I was 7 when he was killed. And that was my 9/11, obviously our generations, and it had a huge impact on me. It was one of my first memories that I remember everything of the coverage on television, my family, a Catholic family crying, and my father never thinking Oswald did it, and my relatives didn't. So I was kind of immersed in that. I certainly never believed Oswald did it. And then when Jack Ruby shot him I remember, going around telling everybody, hey, Jack Ruby shot him to shut him up so he wouldn't talk. As a 7-year-old, I recognized what was going on there. But so Mark Lane didn't really introduce me to it. I kind of always believed it, but then I started reading, as a teenager when Watergate came along. I was a very radical left-wing Democrat. I thought the Democrats were the good guys. And I started realizing there were these books out there about the JFK assassination, which I didn't know. And one of them was Rush to Judgment by Mark Lane. So I just started reading them, one after the other and devouring them. And then I found out about his organization. I joined it and got to meet him and everything. And that was a huge thrill. But so he didn't really, but he influenced me a lot in terms of I loved his, and I became a card-carrying member of the ACLU, as a teenager, and because it was a very different ACLU. So I loved that idea of like Patrick Henry said, not agreeing with what you say, but defending to my dying day your right to say it. So I still have that. I believe it's very important to defend everyone's free speech, especially if you don't agree with it. But the problem is now, especially the left, they don't agree with that at all, and they don't believe in free speech if they don't agree with it. That's where we're at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to get into your theory with JFK. Like what because I've had Roger Stone on. He talked about the LBJ link. Russ Baker on. Everybody kind of has a theory on who they think is, and I think there's obviously a lot of tentacles to this octopus, but everybody has their theory on who they think has the majority of the blame, or maybe instigated it, or was the head of the snake. What's your theory? I know that this is probably a large answer to give you, but
well, I mean, people ask me that all the time, and I would say, first of all, I say, look, I don't know for certain who killed JFK, other than the fact that the government, while conducting a non-investigation, they never really investigated this. They inadvertently proved that it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Clearly and unequivocally. So it wasn't him. So you start out with that premise. They're lying to you. They made up this entire huge story. The Warren Report is 888 pages of mostly meaningless nonsense, 26 volumes of hearings and exhibits, which people like me actually waded through to get the few gems here and there. It's the record is, and Kevin Costner as Jim Garrison alludes to that in Oliver Stone's JFK, where he said, ask the question. They padded the record. They made it look like this was this impressive, and it's mostly nonsense. It has nothing to do with anything, but hardly anybody looked at the record. And so you start from that premise, and you realize, okay, well, who's doing the covering up? Who's doing this production? You figure everybody involved in that, in terms of the the counsel of the Warren Commission members themselves, Alan Dulles, who had good reason to hate JFK. JFK fired him after the Bay of Pigs. And as I found out from RFK Jr. in his book, Family Values, I didn't know, Alan Dulles already hated the Kennedys because the old Joe Kennedy, who I think I'm his only defender at this point, I'm constantly trying to restore his reputation. And I think he was a great patriot. But he was a member of a very unknown commission in the 1950s, a presidential commission to investigate the CIA then. And old Joe Kennedy was the most outspoken member and recommended their power be scaled back. And this was when Alan Dulles was the director. So he hated the Kennedys, when JFK took office, and then he fired him. And then he's the most active member of the Warren Commission investigating his death, which was ridiculous. So there wasn't a single member of the Warren Commission that could be said to be a political ally of JFK, but the councils for the Warren Commission did most of the work. People like Arlen Specter, who later became a pretty famous senator. But if you watch the record and you pore over it, you see this was not, a lot of people in the research community believe it was a benign cover-up. It was nothing benign about it at all. You can see they found witnesses like some woman that babysat the infant Lee Harvey Oswald and hadn't seen him since. Well, what was she doing being called as a witness? You had another woman that had never even met him, that was friends with his parents before that. Those are the kind of witnesses they called, but they didn't call Admiral Berkeley, who was the president's physician and who was a recipient of all the medical evidence and was at all the key places. He wasn't called. Lots of close witnesses. The umbrella man was never identified. The babushka lady, who could be seen wearing a babushka scarf, Russian scarf, can be seen taking the best home video of the assassination. Nobody ever identified her. So, but they tracked down somebody's babysitter as an infant. So that's what I say when they tell me, no, that's not benign. That's hard work to be able to track somebody like that down. You're trying to pad the record with meaningless stuff. So I look at it a little differently than most of the people. I think it's pretty obvious. I think Oliver Stone probably got it right when he said in his movie that something was in the air. I think a confluence of forces came together. I think in the Pentagon, you had people like Curtis LeMay who wanted JFK dead. I mean, probably almost everybody at the upper levels of the Pentagon okayed that. You had Alan Dulles, and most of the high people in the CIA certainly would have approved of that because Kennedy was talking about abolishing the CIA. People forget that he was telling people if he got reelected, he might abolish it. J. Edgar Hoover certainly hated him. Lyndon Johnson hated him and would have was very ambitious and stood to gain the most. And Jim Garrison told my friend John Barber, who is a longtime researcher, the host of Real People, Mr. Hollywood, still going strong at 91. He's become one of my best friends. But he told me that in all the hours when he talked to Jim Garrison later, he became the only person to interview him after the Clay Shaw trial, like 10 years afterwards, or more than that, 15 years afterwards. And he said Garrison told him, that the person, the trigger man for the assassination, the person who okayed it was not Alan Dulles, but was Averell Harriman, who was a blue blood, top of the line guy. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what Garrison believed. So I think in my book, I've only written one book about the assassination itself. I co-wrote it with William Law, and that's Pipe the Bimbo in Red. That's Dean Andrews, Jim Garrison, and the conspiracy to kill JFK. As I've mentioned before, my late brother somehow became best friends with Dean Andrews III. And Dean Andrews Jr. was the beatnik lawyer played by John Candy. And he's very central to all this because he's the one that got a phone call in the hospital on the afternoon of the assassination, asking him to represent Lee Harvey Oswald by Clay Bertrand, who people who've watched JFK, they know that Garrison postulated, and there's good reason to think he was Clay Shaw. So in our book, we show I think there was a conspiracy within a conspiracy, and I think there was a group of conspirators in New Orleans, the people that showed up there, like David Ferry certainly, and Clay Shaw, and all the anti-Castro Cubans. And this is where I differ from most of the researchers. I don't think Cuba had anything to do with the assassination. It was an entire smokescreen because after the assassination, nothing changed. In fact, Cuba disappeared as a campaign issue. There was no Bay of Pigs 2. Castro outlived all of them. They said, that was the reason for the assassination. It didn't work out very well, did it? So I think that the people in New Orleans, the anti-Castro Cubans were used as a smokescreen. They were all manipulated. Most of them all had government, and Jack Ruby was in that group as well, even though it wasn't in New Orleans. And I think Oswald was some kind of an intelligence agent, CIA, FBI, probably both, who was assigned at the time of the assassination as an informant to infiltrate a group, a plot that was plotting to kill, a group that was plotting to kill the president. That's what he was told. And I think that's the only thing that explains what he was doing. And he was interacting with all these people, and he was being set up at the time to be the patsy. So that's the group that people pay attention to. But I think above it all, then you're looking at these forces that we don't see, but we look at like somebody, if you want a conspirator, I think McGeorge Bundy, who is JFK's national security advisor, had to have pre-knowledge of the assassination for the very simple reason that, on the day of November 22nd, he drafted a new executive order, 273. Now, this contradicted the recent 263 National Security Action Memorandum. And that, I think, is what sealed JFK's death, because that paved the way for us to withdraw from Vietnam. First 1,000 troops out by the end of 63, all troops out by 1965. They didn't want that. So McGeorge Bundy had to know that JFK would never sign this new order and would have fired him on the spot, because this order contradicted that and talked about escalating. And of course, Lyndon Johnson couldn't wait to sign it. So McGeorge Bundy had to know what was happening to even write that executive order. Plus, he was in the White House Situation Room in Washington, D.C., and he assured JFK's cabinet, which was all very mysteriously in the air in a plane at the time because they were flying to a conference in Honolulu. And he told them at the time, hey, don't worry about it. There's no conspiracy. This is the afternoon of the assassination when no investigation had been done whatsoever. Virtually nothing was known about Oswald publicly. And he's telling people, hey, don't worry about it. It's not a conspiracy. They have the guy. So I think you want a name for an obvious conspirator. I think people, you need to look at, if I was doing the investigation, I would have started with the Secret Service, because they didn't do their job. They stood down completely. And for some reason, a lot of critics look away from that. And so that's where I think that Emory Roberts, who was in charge of the Secret Service that day, had pre-knowledge, because he pulled somebody off. One of the agents actually attempted to do their job, and he called him back. So, I think that's where I would start an investigation. So
next, we have this clip from the one and only Nature Boy and his guest, John Klyczek.
Particular homeschooling I want to note, because a lot of people after lockdowns and when we were forced online and saw what was going on in their child's curriculum through being able to see it at home, a lot of people have wanted to move into homeschooling to get out of all the crazy stuff that they saw going on in the schools now. And if you take those federal dollars into the homeschool, you will basically be bringing, right, a lot of that into the home, right? Over time, the regulations will sort of close in. So it's privatization, but there's an element in which government expands as well.
Well, it's just a private public partnership, which if you go back to what Mussolini called that, we all know the definition of that, and that is fascism. That is a form of fascism. Yeah. Whether it's hardcore fascism or not, it just meets his basic definition of the corporatism, to where it's the marriage between the corporate and the state power. And that's a very, very dangerous thing, especially with education, because when you centralize education, you centralize the public opinion and knowledge base of an entire population. No diversity of thought, no nothing. People ask, how do these despots like your Stalins, your Hitlers, your Maos get all of these people to do these atrocious things? Well, the first step is you consolidate the message, you consolidate the education, and you start with the children. Who was it? Was it not Hitler or Stalin or somebody says, if you give me somebody till the age of 7, I will control that person for the rest of their life, or something like that. That's why this whole consolidation I've seen of education, the Common Core, hey, we're going to have one central course syllabus, we're going to put out the whole country. Isn't that good? So if little Billy moves from Kentucky to California, they'll still be on the same page. Isn't that wonderful? And all the people go, yeah, that's just so good. But in reality, you're destroying the core of sustainability, and that's diversity. Doesn't matter if it's diversity in animals, nature, or in information. And when you consolidate that, that's a very, very powerful force. And that's one thing that definitely has been concerning me with this. Now, with old, I call him Orange Jesus because I think he's a false prophet, or better yet, a false Messiah and a Judas goat. He's leading a lot of well-intended people down a path that they think is freedom, but it is the opposite. He is the other wing of the bird. In many aspects, I think that old sleepy, creepy, kid sniffing Uncle Joe was, in a volleyball terms, setting a lot of the spikes that Trump is now going to come in and drive home. Biggest one of that, not the biggest, that's probably a little hyperbolic, but a big one is technocracy. This dissolving of state institutions, and everybody's all hip to it. Yeah, get rid of that damn IRS and Department of Education. Screw them damn commie pinkos telling my kid he need to wear a dress. Hell yeah. But what they fail to realize or even ponder is, A, who are the people in organizations which are actually doing that task? And the bigger, the $25,000 question, what will they replace it with? And that's I wouldn't say a fear, because I really don't fear things, but a lot of things do concern me. And going through your article, it just became so evident. This is the plan. There's one thing on here. I've got a bunch of notes, by the way. So everybody, if you see me looking down and looking at my notes, I have the world's worst memory. My mom force-fed me fluoride twice a day, chewable tablets till I was 12. Okay. God was giving out memories. Thought he said memories. Been paying for it ever since. So in it, there's the Department of Education Reorganization Act. What is that? And why should we be concerned with it?
Yeah, so that's what is stipulated in Project 2025 as far as what they want Donald Trump to do. So let's step back just a second before we look at that, because I don't know how many people in your audience are of the ilk that they'll be like, but Donald Trump said he wasn't a part of that. So I feel like we should just address that real quick, right?
Sure.
So
Go for it,
repeatedly, right? He kept saying, "Oh, I'm not a part of that. I don't like it, et cetera, right?" And meaning Project 2025. Well, okay, but about close to 30 of the people that were involved in authoring it were on his first administration. Several of the people are currently on his administration. Some of those that I can name off the top of my head include Russell Vogt, he's the head of OMB, Ratcliffe, who's the head of the CIA, Homan, who is also the border czar. Okay. And then the other reason, the other thing we should note is that if you looked at Linda McMahon's confirmation hearing to become the Secretary of Education. Now that happened the morning this article was published, so none of that got in the article, but I was able to look at it since. And what I'm going to stipulate about what is the Department of Education Reorganization Act, she basically says that's what they're going to do. Okay, so you got people in both his first administration and his current administration that are on board with Project 2025. Linda McMahon was the chair of the board of the America First Policy Institute, which is part of the State Policy Network, which is that Koch brothers consortium of think tanks that's entangled with Project 2025. And when they asked her about a couple of things, when they asked her about where they're going to move some of the agencies, she basically concurred. Okay, so let's talk about how those are going to be moved around. So the Department of Education Reorganization Act, right? It's not. This is the bill that they will have to pass in order to quote unquote dismantle the Department of Education. Notice it's not titled the Department of Ed Dismantling Act or the Department of Ed dissolving or terminating or eliminating, right? It's none of those. It's Reorganization Act, right?
Just like the Patriot Act. It's a patriot. We're doing it for you to save the country. Yeah, it's inversionism.
Well, and so the original was called the Organization Act. Okay, so this is just going to basically put it back where it was prior to that. So before we had a Department of Education in 1979, it was the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, right? So you had a health office, a welfare office, an education office in 79. when they did the Department of Education Organization Act. They broke up HEW. They made the Office of Education its own department, and then they took Health and Welfare and they combined those into another separate department that is now known as the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. So since the both of those departments were created by an act of Congress, Donald Trump cannot use an executive order to get rid of them. They have to be repealed by legislation as well. Now, if you repeal the Department of Education Act, right, if you dissolve that, that doesn't get rid of the federal government's involvement, because the Department of Education, basically all it does is administer, issue, and oversee the entitlement funds that come from the legislation that governs education. There's also the Institute of Education Sciences. We used to have the regional education labs, and they could give out discretionary grants to like do some research and development for pedagogy and methodology. So they don't really create or set curriculum, but they can sort of do some grant programs and competitions to incentivize the adoption of certain curriculums. But the bulk of what it does is it oversees the entitlement funds. The entitlement funds are stipulated in at least 5 bills. Right? These include the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the Higher Education Act, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and then also the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, which is actually something that's overseen more by the Department of Labor, but Department of Labor enters into public-private contracts, partnerships with the Department of Education for workforce training through career pathways and stuff like that, usually through the Office of Career and Technical and Adult Ed. So if you get rid of the Department of Education and you don't repeal all 5 of those bills, the entitlements must go to other departments. There will be lawsuits if that doesn't happen. So, right, this isn't speculation, because if you look at Project 2025, it specifically says where they're going to send those other where those entitlements are going to go. So, when they break it up, they'll send the Office of Post-Secondary Education to the Health and Human Services. Most of them are going to go to HHS and Department of Labor. In close second is going to be Department of Commerce, Department of Justice, Department of State. So Office of Special Ed and Rehabilitative Services, that's going to go to HHS. Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Ed goes to Department of Labor. Office of Civil Rights goes to Department of Justice. Institute of Education Sciences will go to the Census Bureau or the Department of Commerce. And programs important to quote unquote national security, those go to Department of State. So as I mentioned, when Linda McMahon is being questioned, they said, hey, if y'all break up the department, you're not going to get rid of all of the entitlement funds, are you? She says, no, we just want to make it more efficient. So she tells you multiple times to answer that question. They asked her, if you get rid of the Department of Ed, where's the IDEA funding going to go? The Individuals with Disabilities Education. And she goes, well, I don't know if it wouldn't be better served at HHS, which is what's laid out in Project 2025. When they talked about the Title IX, which is the entitlement that oversees gender discrimination, they said, if you get rid of the Office of Civil Rights, where are you going to do that? Oh, I don't know if it wouldn't be better served at the Department of Justice, in line with Project 2025. Another indication that they're not getting rid of federal involvement is, well, it's one of the wins that everybody feels like they're getting, which is Trump basically banning men in women's sports. The way he's doing that is invoking Title IX. So if he wants that to hold water, he can't get rid of Title IX, which means he keeps the entitlements, right? So all of that indicates that, you know, for the longest time, it was, that's a liberal talking point. That's a Democrat thing. So I didn't say, I had this on my radar before he got in. I saw the tides shifting early last year. And so I was like, I'm not going to say anything yet, because I'm going to wait till he gets in. So, because I know how people are. They want to believe that he's going to save them. So they're just going to point to, or they're just going to assert that it's a speculation. So I'll wait till he puts some stuff on the table that I can anchor it to. And so, you know, that's where he's going now. But the people in the comments the day it got published were still telling me all over Twitter that it doesn't exist. And that and I got called a libtard. I got told to get the F out of the country. I had one person tag Elon Musk in a tweet and suggest that I need to have, I need my bank account invested by Doge because I'm probably taking money from USAID. So
now, Let's take a look at this clip from Anti-War News with Dave DeCamp.
Hey, this is Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com. This is Anti-War News for Thursday, March 6th, 2025. All right, the first story at the top of antiwar.com today. Trump threatens the people of Gaza with death. So this is some real sick stuff here from President Trump. On Wednesday, he issued a threat against the civilian population of Gaza, saying that the people of Gaza would be dead if the Israeli hostages were not released immediately. So, I figured I'll just read the whole statement so you get the context of it and everything. So he put this out on social media after meeting with a group of Israelis who were held captive in Gaza and were freed. So he says, quote, "Shalom, Hamas, means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning for the leadership. Now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later," end quote. So he says, again, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. So he's conflating the people of Gaza with Hamas, threatening again that there will be hell to pay. Just a really horrific statement here from Trump. And again, this comes after he met with these Israeli hostages in the Oval Office. And I forgot that this meeting was going to happen. But I remember when I first heard about it, I thought we might see something like this from Trump afterwards. And, again, he's saying that he's sending Israel everything that they need to finish the job. And, he's meeting with these hostages. And how did they get out? Did they get out because Israel was bombing Gaza? No, they got out because of a deal, because of this deal that was reached that Israel is now in total violation of. And some Israeli hostages have been killed by Israeli bombing, but Trump's just threatening to do more of that if Hamas doesn't immediately release the rest of the hostages. And again, this is an explicit threat. I don't know any other way you're supposed to take that, saying to the people of Gaza, if the hostages aren't released, you will be dead. I mean, how else are we supposed to take that other than an explicit threat against a civilian population? Really despicable stuff. And you would think, the liberal media, the opposition would be upset about this, but I haven't really seen anything. It's just they don't care about dead Palestinians. All right, the next one here. Report says that the U.S. is holding direct talks with Hamas. So this came out the same day Trump made this threat. He made this threat after these reports came out, and I wonder if it's kind of a response to all this news about his administration holding direct talks with Hamas, which is a big deal because this is the first time this has ever happened between the U.S. and Hamas. So it was first reported by Axios that the Trump administration is holding direct talks with Hamas, marking the first time the U.S. has ever engaged directly with the Palestinian group. The report, which has been confirmed by the White House, so the White House confirmed that it's held these talks, said that the talks were focused on the release of the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages held in Gaza who have U.S. citizenship and a U.S. citizen who is believed to be alive, 21-year-old Edon Alexander, who grew up in New Jersey and moved to Israel after high school to join the Israeli military. So he's the only one out of the 5 that's believed to be alive. The report said that the U.S. and Hamas are also discussing the possibility of reaching a broader deal on a permanent truce, although Israel has severely violated the agreement, reached in January and now has imposed a total siege on aid and all other goods entering Gaza with full U.S. backing. So these talks have been held in Doha, Qatar in recent weeks between Adam Boehler, who's President Trump's special envoy for hostages. I forgot about this position. So this guy, Adam Boehler, I don't know much about him. He was a businessman. He was involved in some stuff in the first Trump administration. But it's been between him and Hamas officials, and apparently they've been talking directly. One source told Axios that while the U.S. consulted Israel about the possible talks, Israel learned about them through other channels. And that essentially sounds like the U.S. did this on its own, and Israel found out about it by spying on the U.S. I mean, what other channels are there? And this was a report published in Axios by Barak Ravid, who's a former IDF soldier who was in an intelligence unit of the IDF. He always just gets great scoops on things that other people don't know about. So an Israeli source told the Times of Israel that the possibility of direct talks between the U.S. and Hamas came up during the Biden administration, but Israel expressed its opposition. The source said that Israel did not think that it was in the position to oppose the idea under the Trump administration, and said that Israeli officials were not fully briefed on these talks with Hamas ahead of time. So it looks like Israel leaked this to the press, and that, but again, now it's been confirmed by the U.S. and Hamas confirmed it as well. And they said, a Hamas official said that Steve Witkoff, who's Trump's Middle East envoy, has also been involved in the talks, and that was not reported by Axios initially. So, you see this. I mean, I think diplomacy is always good. So I saw this report and I said, hey, maybe this is a good sign, because, it says that they want to work on some kind of broader deal to end things. But at the same time, this could just be an effort to get the hostages with American citizenship out before Israel restarts, the bombing campaign and everything. So, we see this report, and then later in the day, Trump is threatening the people of Gaza. So, of course, that's not good. And just think about how much that emboldens Netanyahu and the people, to the right of him in the government, like Bezalel Smotrich, because, under Biden, at least you had a U.S. government that was pretending like they didn't like what Israel was doing in Gaza. Now you have a U.S. government that's saying, go ahead, blow it all up, kill them all, go for it. So then that puts the pressure on Netanyahu, again, from the people like Smotrich who want to restart and kill everybody and do the ethnic cleansing. And it's just really not good what's happening here. All right, so the next one here, Smotrich meets with U.S. Treasury Secretary in Washington. So speaking of Bezalel, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, an outspoken proponent of the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from Gaza and Israeli annexation of the West Bank, has arrived in the U.S., and he met with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Washington on Wednesday. So he received a very warm welcome in Washington. The Biden administration reportedly had a tacit ban on Smotrich visiting Washington, although Biden provided Israel with plenty of weapons and backing to help carry out Smotrich's agenda, both in the destruction of Gaza and the advancement of settlements in the West Bank. So Smotrich said in a post on X, quote, "Good morning from Washington. After 4 years in which, under the Biden administration, no ministerial level meeting took place between the U.S. Treasury Department and the Israeli government, we are now entering the U.S. Treasury Department for a very important meeting," end quote. And you see this picture here of Smotrich and Bessent. And Smotrich, I think, is pretty short in general, and maybe Bessent is tall, but he just looks like tiny next to him. But Smotrich said that he would thank the Trump administration for its, quote, "unequivocal support of the state of Israel in the critical war of existence that we are waging," end quote. So after a meeting, they released a joint statement basically saying that they reaffirmed the economic ties between the U.S. and Israel and that they would work to advance them more. And Smotrich, I'm sure he's meeting with other U.S. officials. I'm sure he's meeting with members of Congress. Not exactly clear right now. But he's also expected to drum up support for Israeli annexation of the West Bank. Now, on February 5th, Trump was asked at the White House, will you support the Israeli annexation of the West Bank? And it was kind of strange. He said, I expect to announce something on that in 4 weeks. Well, Wednesday, the day Smotrich arrived, happened to be 4 weeks. So there's some anticipation that Trump might announce something when it comes to the annexation of the West Bank. And of course, Smotrich, besides being the finance minister, he also holds a position in the defense ministry that gives him the ability to advance Jewish settlements in the West Bank. And he's overseen massive land grabs in the Palestinian territory.
Now, we have a special Solutions Watch episode from James Corbett discussing the white pill.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to another edition of Solutions Watch. I am your host, James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, coming to you, as always, from the sunny climes of Western Japan in March of 2025, with another edition of everyone's favorite solutions-oriented podcast. And this week on the D program, we're going to take our cue for today's topic from a simple but interesting observation. Namely, that there seems to be an interestingly coordinated effort, at least in the certain online spaces right now, to try to get people to swallow the black pill. You know, the black pill. The one that tells you that you're weak, you're powerless, you have no agency or control in your life. The only thing that you can do is to select from the group of oligarchs that will rule over you. And you should be happy about that fact, say the black pillars. These people try to tell you, for example, that you should vote, and then trust that vote, despite the fact that we know selection after selection after selection has been rigged in increasingly ridiculous ways. No. Somehow or other, you should trust this particular recent selection, where somehow or other, this multi-trillion-dollar, multi-generational group of oligarchs and psychopaths have just, oh my God, the people put their suggestion in the slave suggestion box, and now these radicals and maverick billionaires are somehow now populating the seats of deep state power and are totally going to drain the swamp with their AI algocracy. Now, maybe you don't even know what the term algocracy means, which I think is an interesting observation in and of itself. But at any rate, you get the idea. There are people who are trying to get people to swallow that black pill and be happy about it. Yay! Trust the plan. Enjoy the show. Doge is going to make America great again, guys. I'm a Canadian in Japan. Anyway, yay! Get on board. Now, of course, what these black pillars fear the most is the white pill. You know, the white pill. The one that says, you are not weak and powerless and pathetic. It's not that you don't have agency in your life. No, the exact opposite. You are strong. You are powerful. You are a sovereign human being who has control and agency in your own life. That you can take action with others around you to build a world that is better than the one that you were born into. That is possible. That is the white pill. And what the black pillars really don't want you to see is that the whole federal governmental stage show of selection politics and, hey guys, trust this group of oligarchs, all of that is the wool that has been pulled over your eyes to keep you from realizing that simple white pill truth. You are strong. It does matter what you think, what you believe, and the way that you act in this world, and that is precisely why so much time and so much energy and so much money is spent propagandizing you 24/7 to support the establishment, the authoritarians, the regime, whichever regime is in power. Now, the weirdest part about this coordinated effort that's going on online right now to get you to swallow the black pill is that those black pillars are trying to invert reality. They are saying that the white pill is the black pill, and the black pill is the white pill. So they are saying, oh no, those people who tell you that you are powerful and that you are strong and that you can actually do things to affect change in the world, no, that's the black pill, man. And the real white pill is just trusting the ruling oligarchs. Yay! And if you don't trust them, then you're a black pillar. That is, of course, an exact inversion of reality, but it is being propagated, as I say, in an interesting coordinated campaign right now to make you believe that, for example, the conspiracy realists who have been right over and over and over and over about well, every event of recent times, from 9/11 on up. Now, suddenly, these people are just crazy conspiracy theorists? No, that label doesn't work anymore. Let's call them black pillars for trying to get people to swallow the white pill. Is this all a little bit confusing to you? Well, don't worry, because in this edition of SolutionsWatch, I am going to be delving into this topic in greater detail. I think there's a lot to parse out here, and actually, of course, I have a lot to say on this and my own ideas, but today we're going to do something different. Today I have assembled an all-star team of independent media all-stars to talk about this white pill, black pill, what is going on here. And I have gotten some responses from some really incredible people out there in the alternative media that I think you're going to want to listen to. For example, Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news. I know you know his work by now if you have listened at the very least to my conversations with him, but more importantly, read his books. And if you haven't, now is a good opportunity to get acquainted. I talked to Sam Tripoli of the Tinfoil Hat podcast. I am sure people know of Sam and his work and his stand-up comedy, also bringing truth to the masses. I talked to Jason Bassler of the Free Thought Project, who has been a previous guest on SolutionsWatch and also does incredible work over at the Free Thought Project. And Ryan Cristian of The Last American Vagabond. Again, someone that my regular viewers will no doubt be familiar with. And if you're not, well, you will become familiar with Ryan. But having said that, if you are one of those Corbett Report subscribers who is warming up his fingers or her fingers to start typing off your furious message about how the whole black pill, white pill analogy is a false construct, well, don't worry. You're going to want to stick around till the end of the episode, where there will be a special appearance by a special guest who will not be named yet, but who is a first-time guest on the Corbett Report, and you will want to see and hear what she says about this topic, because it's probably along the lines of what you're thinking right now. So let's dive in and get started. And as I say, I'm sure that my regular, well-informed listeners already know about the black pill and the white pill, let alone the blue pill and the red pill. But of course, all of this pill analogy comes from, well, maybe not originally, but at least in recent times, comes from the Matrix predictive programming Hollywood trilogy. Quadrilogy? Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about that. Anyway, of course, the blue pill. Neo can take the blue pill and he can go back to sleep and forget everything he's learned. Or he can take the red pill and wake up to the harsh reality of the real world. And, of course, the blue pill and red pill became a very common analogy, and conspiracy realists like to use that red pill term. But recently, black pill and white pill have been popularized. Black pill, a doomer who doesn't believe in any hope is a black pillar, and a white pillar, I suppose, would be the exact opposite. Well, here's hope. And as I say, I think the meaning of black pill and white pill is being inverted. They're trying to get you to swallow the black pill by calling it the white pill, and vice versa. But as I say, there's a lot to say about this subject. Let's get into it with an interesting dissection of this black pill, white pill analogy by Ryan Cristian of The Last American Vagabond.
Hey guys, Ryan Cristian here from The Last American Vagabond. Very interesting discussion here about white pill, black pill, and how much this has played a role, even more so recently than in a very long time. But for a while, this conversation's been swirling. But I think it's important to think about, the difference of the terms, right? I mean, this comes from the idea of most people thinking of the Matrix, but a little before that, a book and so on, and different conversations around the idea being red pill, being confronting the hard truth, the blue pill being going back to sleep, as it were, accepting, ignoring the problem, essentially. Then you have the black pill developing and the white pill, where the black pill becomes the acceptance of the bad thing. Right? Well, the world's doomed. It's too late now. The white pill being, I guess, finding the positivity in that, both being, I think, in my opinion, false perceptions. White being that no matter what, it'll all work out. Trust them, give them time. Black pill being, no matter what they do, we're going to fail. So why try? Interestingly, both in the same kind of idea, right? Let them deal with it. Either we're not going to be able to succeed or they've got it handled. Don't worry. It's both. It's kind of trust the plan. either way. So what's important to think about is, what are those terms meant to mean? And the way that it is today, it's kind of boiled down into this idea where the black pill is becoming, from a kind of partisan inversion of these terms, the people trying to stop the problem. And this has been something we've talked about for a very long time. I use the term regime change, where at one point, the very idea of regime change was kind of dismissed as a conspiracy theory. Then it became, over a long period of time, something that was, today, regime change for democracy. What's interesting about it is that when you think about it, we say regime change, or I say it, and I'm thinking about a very clear, surreptitious, devious action. And then in your mind, you may be thinking of something entirely different, and they're both nodding along saying regime change. That's how these terms are used. And that's how I see it being played today, where it's been inverted. As a lot of us, Steve from Slow News Day and plenty of others have pointed out, the great inversion, Derek Rose included. And I think that's what this really is, this flipping of the terms to where now the black pill is essentially anything that is highlighting that what is happening isn't exactly what you might expect or want or plan for or hope is happening. And that is the white pill, right? Where they have just accepted it. We believe in Trump, or we believe in Biden, and it's all going to work out. And there's, of course, I think the majority of people that exist in the middle in that. But why it's so important today, as I think the point of the conversation is, and I wouldn't go as far as to say that, what is the white pill as in like the good versus the bad. Again, I kind of see both of them as like a hyperbolic version of the reality, or really the overcompensation of each side. So I think today what the important part is to, as always, the core message I think we're always bringing is that you are whatever term you think fits your own solution, right? You are the white pill if you think that means, the positive outcome. But for me, it's really just about finding the power in yourself, realizing that nobody else out there is going to come to save you, that you are the only one that can affect change in your life or anywhere in your perception in the world around you. And maybe you can work along with other people to make that happen in a more broad way, but it comes down to your choices and your personal beliefs and what you do on a daily basis that changes people's lives around you and through that yourself. Something I've always said in general that I'll leave it on that I think is important. I don't think anybody is just born a certain way, that a good person, a bad person. I think there's a level of that to some degree. And the world around you changes that, your parents, your family, what you're taught. But every day, it's a choice. Every single day, you decide to be a certain person. Every single day and every action you make, you decide you want to be this or you want to be that for different reasons. And my mindset is this, is that if you want to be a better person, if you want to have integrity and principles, and you just decide to do that. And yeah, you'll fall short. You'll miss things. We all make mistakes, but you wake up the next day and you decide again. You decide again, and you wake up again, and you decide again until it just becomes a part of your nature. It's something that I've picked up over the years that I think is very important to think about. That we have to make a conscious choice to be the white pill, to be whatever you think it means. And again, back to the main point, whatever the term is, that you show the self-determination, you show the self-responsibility, and you follow the track that you think is going to benefit the world around you, starting with your own choices. But I do think it's important to see how these terms have been used and are being played and weaponized against us. Even terms that might have been positive once before, it's all kind of lost its meaning. That's what I guess we're searching for. So thank you, James, for putting this on and including me as well. So I hope that answers the question, and let's keep questioning everything.
That, of course, is Ryan Cristian of The Last American Vagabond, and if you don't know about his work, you do now, and I will, of course, link up his site in the show notes. It is a valuable resource, not only for Ryan's regular hours-long daily wrap-up, in which he covers all of the breaking news as it is breaking, and does a fantastic job of that, but of course also has assembled a team of writers on various subjects, like Derek Brose, like Whitney Webb, and others who do articles and even interviews for The Last American Vagabond. It's a valuable resource, and precisely because it hews to Ryan's core ethos of question everything and come to your own conclusions, which I think gives a clue towards the direction in which he will obviously interpret this black pill, white pill question. The labels are stupid, and to some extent, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to call yourself. And if you want to call it white pill, great, do so. But the important point is that the real power comes from us. We have the power, and I am 100% in concordance with that message. And of course, that is the ethos behind SolutionsWatch. But if the labels don't matter, black pill, white pill, whatever you call anything, what does it matter as long as you are taking steps in the real world to affect change in your life? If it doesn't matter, then why is there this coordinated attempt to smear any critics, any would-be critics of the current ruling billionaire oligarchy, the man, for those who remember the recent edition of Questions for Corbett? Why is there a coordinated smear attempt that's going on to try to put this black pill label on conspiracy realists? Well, as it so happens, exactly as I was mulling this very question and considering how to put together an episode of Solutions Watch on this very question, noticing the coordinated effort that's going on right now to try to smear critics of the current ruling regime, it just so happens, well, it's very much a part of the zeitgeist, and it was picked up on and discussed in a very interesting, thorough, hour-long conversation on the Free Thought Project podcast, in which Sam Tripoli, who I'm sure you probably know from the Tinfoil Hat podcast, but if not, well, again, this is a good introduction, and the link will be in the show notes. But Sam Tripoli was on the Free Thought Project podcast to discuss psyops and spirituality, why questioning authority is never a black pill, and they get into this very subject in a great degree of detail. So I could not recommend this conversation strongly enough. I think it is an important exploration of this topic. So I will allow you to pause this edition of Solutions Watch and go listen to that podcast in its entirety. All right, now that you're back, well, excellent, great. So now you're excited and primed for a little bit more on the subject, and it is in that spirit that I reached out to both Sam and the Free Thought Project to provide a little bit more of their thoughts on specifically this framing of the black pill, white pill question and why this smear is going around. And first up, we have Jason Bassler, who you will recognize as one of the co-hosts of the Free Thought Project podcast, who had an interesting dissection of where this smear, this black pill smear, is coming from, where the black pillars are trying to paint the white pill as the black pill. Where did this originate, and why is it wrong? This is Jason Bassler of the Free Thought Project podcast.
Hey guys, let's talk about this term black pill for a second. Lately I've seen a lot of people on the right use this term to dismiss anyone critical of Trump. And it reminds me a lot of how the left called people questioning COVID policies a conspiracy theorist. And where did that term conspiracy theorist come from? Well, the CIA used it to discredit anyone skeptical of the JFK assassination. And guess what, guys? It worked. But here's the thing. Those so-called conspiracy theorists, or as I call them, conspiracy realists, have been right about COINTELPRO, Operation Mockingbird, Jeffrey Epstein, NSA surveillance, fluoride-lowering IQ, and the list goes on and on. So let's take this a step further with some Socratic questioning. What if Trump, Elon, Kash Patel, and RFK Jr. will fix it? It's just a bedtime story to lull you back to sleep. What if the real black pill is vote for the lesser of two evils, or as James Corbett says, what if trust the plan, enjoy the show, are just distractions? What if Elon is controlled opposition? An amalgamation of intelligence agencies repackaged as a free speech hero to usher in a new era of technocratic control. What if this is all part of a bigger agenda? What then? Look, support whoever you want to, but I'm going to keep asking questions because questioning politicians, billionaires, and the government is always the morally correct position. History shows us that every regime, regardless of the party, will use every resource at its disposal to mislead, divide, and distract the public. And just because your team is in power doesn't mean that magically changes. As Thomas Jefferson said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And it's so important that we don't fall into the trap of black and white thinking. Don't support Doge? Well, you're just black-pilled. Don't support MAGA? Well, you just hate America. Don't support Trump? You're obviously a Kamala supporter. Don't support bombing civilians? I guess you're just an anti-Semite. See how this works, guys? Blind loyalty always leads to tunnel vision. Now, let me ask you another question. What sounds like the real black pill here? A, we're doomed either way, so we had to pick Trump as the lesser of two evils? Just trust the plan. Or B, We can't rely on corrupt politicians to save us. We can only save ourselves. Look, I've been called black-pilled and accused of TDS just for asking these questions, but the truth is, I'm the guy in the middle. We need more critical thinkers who aren't emotionally tied to their political identity that can offer level-headed analysis. And the funny thing is, because of my willingness to ask these counterintuitive questions, I get labeled black-pilled or negative or doomer when nothing could be further from the truth. I have a beautiful family, I have a great career doing the work that I love, and I'm happy. You know, at the end of our podcasts, we always ask our guests for a white pill, because while it's easy to focus on the doom and gloom, we also need to focus on solutions. If we want to change the world, it starts with us, not by forcing our will on others, but by leading by example. So I'll leave you with this. What do you think is the real white pill, and who's trying to keep us from taking it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
An excellent response from Jason Bassler of the Free Thought Project. And I hope you are following the Free Thought Project, not only for conversations like that one that hopefully you just listened to with Sam Tripoli, but many others like it, and much other information and content besides. And for people who do listen to that podcast, you will know that they really do end every single podcast by asking the guest for a white pill, something that can give people confidence, inspire people to take action in the real world, to do things, to affect change. And I always admire people who are looking for the things that we can do in this world. That's why I support the Free Thought Project podcast. I think it is a great podcast and it's worth your time and attention. And on that note, you might also note that I do get ideas for SolutionsWatch from the Free Thought Project on a regular basis. So hats off to those guys and to Jason Bassler. But as I said, hopefully you have listened to that conversation with Sam Tripoli. So you'll know that Sam brings in another dimension, another angle to this question of what is the white pill and how do you get people to swallow it, or can you get people to swallow it? And Sam approaches it from a different direction, namely that of spirituality. And what does that mean in his formulation, and how does that relate to this whole question of what is truly empowering, what is hope, what is hopium, etc.? Well, let's listen to Sam. So I put the question to Sam: what is the real white pill, and who is keeping you from swallowing it? And this is Sam's response.
So the question is, what is the real white pill, and who is trying to stop us from swallowing it? That's a great question. I kind of was talking about all the different pills, the blue, the white to the black, and that's kind of had it ordered. And then I just after thinking about it so much today, the truth is the white pill is the last pill. The white pill is the understanding that, you can't save anybody and that the power resides inside you. This really is it. I've been on this journey for a very long time, trying to get information to wake up people to what's going on. I just realized that most people can't comprehend it and don't truly care. So to get to this kind of place to understand that real change, real growth, real understanding of how the world works is to look from within. That to me is the white pill. A lot of people want to say the black pill. The black pill is there's no hope. I think it's getting demonized. There's people out there that think the black pill is a CIA psyop, the label of black pill, and that you get no hope. That is possible. I think the black pill is just a truly understanding of the experience of the world and how the elites have tried to control it and dominate and go after humanity. And that's what, to me, the black pill is. But the next step after that is the white pill. The white pill is the one that truly lets you know that the best way to deal with it is to look inside. You want to make change, you got to make change from the inside. That's how it goes. And by changing your life from the inside, you are an example to others, okay, on how to change their life. And that's how it goes. When I go on the road and people are always like, Sam, you changed my life. That means the world to me because they saw the example of just me looking inside. I'm done trying to save people. It's you can't do it. If you don't get it by now, you're not going to get it. But the best way to do the white pill, which to me is getting closer to nature, that culture gets you farther from God, farther from nature, and spirituality gets you closer to God, gets you closer to nature and the order of nature. That's to me what the white pill is. Are you acting high vibrational, low vibrational? To be lost in the blue pill, to be turned off or feel hopeless from hearing black pill stuff, that to me is low vibrational. High vibrational is like the only thing I can change is myself. And that's kind of what I'm doing. The closer I get to God, the more my anxiety goes down and I'm a happier person. The farther I get from God, the more my anxiety goes up and I'm not happy, and I'm not a happy person and I'm living in misery. So my opinion is the white pill is the understanding that true change comes from within. I just want to say this, that everything I've ever learned in recovery, our culture tells me the exact opposite. Everything I ever learned in recovery was, I am where I am based on the decision I made and the actions I've taken. Culture says it's not your fault, it's their fault. You can't control it, it's out of your hands. To me, everything's about taking control of yourself. Not kind of having this whole be pacified, don't take any action, someone else is going to come save it. That's not what it is. The true punk rock is to know that I am a sovereign being. I am the king of my kingdom and I can control everything. And that's the way I make change, by showing others how to get out of the matrix. And the people who want to stop that are these old elite families who've made deals with darkness. Who knows how deep it goes? Secret societies, these what I call energy vampires. They feed off our sadness, our depression, and all that stuff. And they want controls because they made deals with dark entities. And that's where it's at. And through data, they know who the psychopaths are. And that's how they control us over years and years of psyops of thousands of years, because they need to control us. They need to divide us because we are the powerful. They are the few. And if we actually came together and stopped fighting over stupid stuff, the world would be an amazing place. So that's my opinion. The white pill is the true understanding that no matter what they do, you control your destiny and you have to look within and make the changes within. You are where you are based on decisions you make and the actions you've taken. And if you want to change your life, you got to change your life. Okay. If you want change, you got to make change. And that's my opinion.
Sam makes some important and provocative points there that I hope people will at the very least cogitate on, and it's something that I've addressed before and that I've definitely encountered from many, many people writing into me over the years. Oh, I can't wake up this particular person. How do I wake up this particular person? And as I have explained before, for example, in Questions for Corbett, you can't wake up someone who is pretending to be asleep. You cannot wake up another human being. All you can do is provide facts, evidence, information, reason, arguments, etc. But it's up to them. And it's that the inverse of that is that it's up to you as to how you interact with the world, what you do in the world. And as I think Sam very rightly observes, the most powerful form of persuasion, I suppose, if you could even call it that, is to live by example, to be the change you want to see in the world, and other people will see that and gravitate towards it if it's working. And I think that is the way to really affect change. So some very important points there from Sam Tripoli. And if you're not familiar with his work, of course, please become familiar with it. I would assume most of my audience is familiar, at the very least, with the Tinfoil Hat podcast. But if you are interested in Sam, you can, of course, check out all of his work, including the Tinfoil Hat podcast, including his premium content for members, including his latest stand-up comedy special, Why Is Everybody Getting Quiet?, which is available at samtripoli.com. So that link will be in the show notes as well if you'd like to follow that. Okay, good. All right. I think we have a pretty firmly established basis for what we're talking about today and why we're talking about it. Yes, black pill, trust the plan, enjoy the show. You're just a powerless, weak individual. You have to bow down to the oligarchs. And anyone who doesn't, you better watch out for those people. That's the black pill. The white pill is taking action, making change in the real world. Excellent. Yes, but what does that mean? I know that I'm the type of person listening to this type of podcast. By this point, I would be saying, yes, yes, yes. But what does that mean? What are the nuts and bolts? Tell me in actual steps. What can people actually do and how should they be doing it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Of course, if you are a regular Corbett Report listener, you will already be equipped to know at least the start of the answer to that question and how to find out more information on it, for example, in the SolutionsWatch podcast, but more generally in all of the work that I do, which is pointing people to a very, very important part of this puzzle, namely that the most powerful tool of control that the oligarchs have ever invented is the mass media. The media matrix, of course, is what has ensnared us all, and increasingly so as we go more and more and more into this completely mediated universe where almost all of the information that we get now is coming, well, not even through books or any other form of media at this point, not the radio. No, it's coming through your digital screens. And of course, that is the most powerful tool of control, because every second that you spend immersing yourself in the digital world, staring at that screen, engaging in flame wars with the other smartphone zombies out there that you'll never meet and never will, and who may or may not even actually exist. They may just be bots. Whatever. Just spend your time on that screen, And for every second that you are trapped in the media matrix is another second that you are not out in the real world, taking action and affecting real change. Right? Right. So, really, ideally, once you really get the point of all of this, I really do hope people, okay, I get it, and I don't need this piece of media in my life anymore. I don't need that media anymore. And if you come to the conclusion, I don't need the Corbett Report in my life anymore, I get it. Great. Okay, you've graduated. You've graduated to the next level. Now go out there and start taking action in the real world. That would be the greatest win for a D program like SolutionsWatch. Having said that, I know that everyone's at different stages of waking up to that reality, so I turned to another independent media all-star to get his perspective on what people can do to start taking action in the real world. That person is Patrick Wood, and as I say, you will know Patrick Wood by now, at the very least from our many previous conversations on the subject of technocracy, which hopefully, as I say, also, you have probably, hopefully, already read Patrick's books on technocracy. He has a book trilogy on that very subject, talking about this very era that we are now suddenly immersed in, and everyone is starting to see, talking about these AI algorithms that are going to be algorithmically running the government and making it so much more efficient. Tech support for the government, guys. What is technocracy anyway? Well, of course, the answers are in Patrick Wood's books. They're at technocracy.news, and as I say, I hope my regular listeners are familiar with those resources by now. But are you familiar with the Local Activist Accelerator at www.localactivist.org? Well, if not, you're about to be, because, of course, that is what Patrick Wood is going to talk to us about when it comes to this question of the white pill and empowering ourselves to make change in the world. Well, what does that mean? Once you've swallowed the white pill, what do you do? Well, Patrick Wood has some ideas, and here they are.
Welcome. I'm Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. You probably already know that there's something going on vis-a-vis the coup d'etat of technocracy and transhumanism these days. If you don't understand it, get boned up on it. Here's some resources for you. You got to appreciate a cartoon once in a while. Here's Calvin and Hobbes talking about the superheroes who basically like to fight the evil maniacs with grandiose plans to destroy the world. And Calvin figures out, well, why don't the superheroes go after more subtle, realistic bad guys? Then Hobbes chimes in, yeah, the superhero could attend council meetings and write letters and stuff to the editors. Yeah, I see the problem. So anyway, you get the idea. Great cartoon. This is the problem, though. However, people don't want to be involved in local action at this point. This is going to change big time. Local action is where it is at this point. Not slamming your TV. You can't change anything on the national politics stage anyway. But when your life is affected, and it will be, if it's not already, your life is going to be affected. You will take action locally for things like jobs, housing, food, health, safety. These are very personal issues, and nobody can solve them except us individually. And you can go to your local politicians. This is so critical to protect your community and your persons from harm. They're the only last defense you have at this point. Maybe you don't, if you live in a big city, that might be kind of hard. If you could go to your neighborhood leadership perhaps, but you have to make a concerted effort to contact these people to make sure they understand their job is to protect you from any harm and under other things relating to infrastructure, etc. Well, when you go to local officials, always go 2 by 2. Don't go on your own. You need a witness to involve and basically to record and film everything, to hold them accountable, not to be rude necessarily, but just make sure that they understand you're dead serious, that you want your neighborhood, your family to be protected, and that's their job. That's their only job at this point. Then organize neighborhood groups to build relationships. We must have relationships with real people, not online people, not bots, not AI, whatever. You have to have relationships with real people in the future. This is so important. I just cannot stress this enough. So it's really easy to get together with a group of neighbors. You don't worry about what their politics is. Just say, hey, can we just get together and talk about stuff? What's going to happen if we have a food shortage, for instance? If somebody loses their job because of AI or health issues or whatever, you can talk with people and they don't have to be offended at all. These are just basic human concerns that you have. Then, if you need help to be trained in civic engagement, we have a great organization called localactivist.org. This is part of citizensforfreespeech.org, which I happen to be the founder of in 2018. But we have a great training program to help our citizens understand how to approach people in leadership in your local community. You don't want to blow them away because if you make an enemy of somebody, then that won't help you at all. But you can learn great skills to be effective in your local community. In any case, I'm Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. Thanks for listening.
Once again, that, of course, is Patrick Wood of technocracy.news and also www.localactivist.org. And I hope you will follow the link from the show notes if you are at all interested in that concept of local activism actually taking part in the world literally physically around you rather than watching the theatrics of this stage show that's happening on the screen about people thousands of miles away from you that may or may not, you probably have absolutely no control over. Well, anyway, as I say, that's an example of talking about the real world and the community around you and things that you can do to form relationships and build community and take steps that will have an effect on your real world life. So, as I say, the link will be in the show notes for those who are interested in following up on that, and I hope they will avail themselves of that resource.
Now, let's take a look at some highlights from AM Wakeup from this week. Make sure to support and share their show to keep this great channel going. Share the show. Share the show. Share the show.
Share the fucking show.
But yeah, what's happening? How's it going?
Happening, man?
What up?
What's happening? What's happening? Hey, Charles, how are you?
What's good, Teal? How you doing?
Doing pretty good this Monday. How are you guys? Steve, I don't be on your show enough. I need to do this more often.
Right? I agree. I do.
I do need to do this. Hi, Charles. What's up?
I gotta say, it's Black Hoodie Monday, right?
Right?
I think so. Yeah, we should have did this on the 28th.
I was gonna make a Black Monday joke, and then I realized, yeah, you're right. We are all wearing black hoodies.
You know, you gotta let the black person do that. You know, Steve.
I said Black Hoodie Monday.
Yeah, no, that's what I heard. Shit. Lots of places we can go this morning. I think maybe we should start with RFK's obvious betrayal of the Maha movement. And
Is that what we're calling it instead of Maha?
Well, it was Make
instead
America. They started this on the campaign trail when Trump announced Bobby, that he wanted him in the cabinet, and he brought him up on stage, and there was fireworks and all that kind of shit, and it was Make America Healthy Again, and that was the whole I don't know, the whole bait and switch.
Yeah. Bring CRISPR gene editor Bobby Kennedy to be the face of all this, the guy who's anti-vaccine, quote unquote, but the same guy who, during his congressional hearings was, he was pro-vaccine, and the same guy who's now pushing for, every parent has a choice, but the MMR vaccine is effective and it's safe and it's the way to go. But you do have a choice, but go get that shit.
Yeah. So my buddy Scott over at Rebunked said, man, all this 5D chess is giving me autism.
Hey, I love me some 5D chess, Steve.
But yeah, measles outbreak, call to action for all of us. The article itself, like Charles is saying, it's Bobby doing a whole bunch of double speak on all of the reasons that people liked him in the first place. He has always said that he's pro-vaccine. He just wants, actually safe and effective vaccines, which is a nice statement. It is. But Health and Human Services issuing a guidance or a suggestion has about as much significance as, like, let's say you're in the back of a stadium show and you see, 300 yards down, a drunk 17-year-old wandering towards the mosh pit unawares. It's like yelling at that kid during the middle of a live show. That's how much effectiveness it has. If you don't remove the pharma lobby from the equation, you can have all the issuances and guidances and recommendations in the world, and it ain't going to do shit.
Yeah, no, it's not. And what we have to remember, like, lawfully speaking, this is all federal. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you as a parent or whatever the fuck, you have a choice to do whatever you want to do. You can vaccinate if you want or not, but these rules, these laws, they're for federal employees. They're for people that this shit applies to. So by all means, don't think the world ends because some nigga is telling you to go get a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Not like, and isn't like, well, I guess in a sense, I guess you could just say it like this, like, you govern your house, bro. You govern your crib.
Yeah.
And if you worried about your kid possibly stepping out and catching measles, keep that mug in the house. Homeschool that nigga.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Get your education up. And I'm not talking about regurgitating historical facts. And I actually brought this up yesterday on Political Matrix. I was like, it's not so much as regurgitating history. I don't give a fuck. I can teach my kids how many presidents there are. Does he really need to know that? No. Does she really need to know that? No. What you do need to know is how to do mental math on the fly. That numbers don't lie. Numbers will never lie. Okay? So if out of anything that's elementary, you know what I'm saying, that we learn in public schools, it's going to be math, it's going to be science. Shit, might even teach you some Breaking Bad shit. Who the fuck knows? But nevertheless, I'm going to govern my house. I'm going to homeschool my child, and I'm going to teach the things that they don't teach, financial literacy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Acquiring property. Doing things with your hands, actual trades. Seedlings, starting shit, germination, things of that nature, which all go into science. That's the science section of the day. That's Tuesdays. You know what I'm saying? And if that's the case, then keep your child in the crib and you ain't got to worry about it. Once the immune system, feed them elderberry and zinc. Once the immune system up, they ain't got to worry about no funky ass measles. They ain't got to worry about all that dumb ass shit.
I grew up in an era where our parents would take us to, like, our cousin's house or a friend's house if they had chicken pox or the measles, so that we would get it so that we wouldn't get it again. Let me go
Are you talking about natural immunity, Steve? Are you talking about nature? Nature, you mean, right? Or did you forget that the CDC and the World Health, they all changed the definitions of this shit, Steve?
Yeah, no, I lived through that shit.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But
It's
yeah,
nuts.
no, I remember getting exposed to the chicken pox at my cousin's house, and my sister got it hella bad. She really did, but she was down for like a week. I was down for like 3 days or something like that. Never got them again. And we were told that natural immunity was a right-wing conspiracy. They changed the definition of herd immunity to fit the narrative. Even the Brady Bunch had this shit figured out. Have you ever seen this clip, Teal? The measles episode of the Brady Bunch?
No.
All right.
There you go.
Peter, what are you doing home from school?
They sent me home. Measles.
It's either measles or a strange case of red freckles.
You have got a temperature.
They told me 101.1. What's the record?
Never mind.
Oh, are you sure it's the measles?
Well, he certainly got all the symptoms. A slight temperature, a lot of dots, and a great big smile.
A great big smile.
No school for a few days.
Say hello to my dotted son for me. Tell him I'll bring him some comic books and I'll see you later, dear.
Okay, honey, bye.
Boy, this is the life, isn't it? Yeah. If you have to get sick, sure can't beat the measles. That's right. No medicine.
Inside or out. Like shots, I mean.
Don't even mention shots. Yeah.
Measles, measles, measles. Well, all the kids have now had the measles.
So have I.
Well, I had them years ago. Looks like the Bradys are finished with the measles.
Hold it. You're not through yet.
Alice, don't tell me you're coming down with the measles.
Oh, I hope so. I'd hate to think I was just learning how to blush at my age.
Yeah, bro. That's fake news, though. And plus, it's a bunch of old white people, and it's old. That's not up to date. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think Kanye's going to get accepted into the group. They might have to push his application off. They don't really do a lot of DEI or, you know what I'm saying, EECO type thing. You know, they're not really trying to meet a quota. So I don't know how that's going to work. But also, so what? So the fuck what?
Did you guys see Trevor Noah, who grew up in apartheid South Africa, on the podcast talking about how integration was a bad idea?
No, but I'm glad that he said something. Because look, he's the reason integration happened.
I found myself wondering, and this applies to America, and then maybe it'll go to other places in a different way because Finland ties in. Do you think that integration was the right move? Like, and now I'm separating two things because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there was segregation, and I go, yeah, no, I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away, because I'll put myself up personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about, and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think the part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
It's very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with Black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe. on the other side of what America of civil rights.
Yeah, no, I don't, and I don't think it's actually that controversial when if you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like those are within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that?
Now, is that to say that there's no hierarchy in African society? There's no hierarchy in Black culture?
There it is. There it is. So again, speaking as a child of West African parents who was born overseas in a predominantly white country mostly, my thing is, it's like, it's all cultures are different, but it's like Steve is white. We're talking to Steve. He's a white dude. Steve, it's like what brings me to people is like that commonality. I truly don't look at color. Like, just because I've been around a room full of Africans and I've stood out like a fucking white person, and I've been in a room full of white people and I've stood out because I'm a nigga, kind of African nigga from a white country. What the fuck? It's like, but when I'm in a room with a bunch of fish heads, yeah, we can talk about Down with Disease. We can talk about a second set tweezer. We can talk about fucking a 30-minute Piper jam. If I'm in a room with fucking anarchists, we can talk about the Constitution. We can talk about the laws, the government, and how government is corrupt. I don't give a fuck about your color. What binds me to somebody is your ideology. Like, truly, that to me is like the answer. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, as a American-born Black girl that had civil rights pushed down her throat. No, I'm dead ass. I'm so serious. You know what I'm saying? In multiple different ways that had to deal with the response of what integration created. I live outside of a city. I'm about 20 minutes away from a city called Pocosin. And that motherfucker right there, they had a no niggas after dark sign until 1972. Like, it goes, welcome to Pocosin, that big ass sign, and there was a sign underneath it that let you know, no niggas after dark in 1972. Right. You can still go to that gas station in 2025, and they'll let you know that you need to go to the next one.
Wow.
Did they wait until after Bear Bryant integrated the Alabama football team?
I think so, because it's still... Because they kids.
That was 1972.
Because I swear to God, it had to be that. I ain't gonna hold you, because it wasn't. I was in high school in the early 2000s, and when I tell y'all, they kids still came to our football games calling us niggas in the field, like in the stands. Parents calling kids niggas. You know what I'm saying? So like, with that always being like beat down over me most of my life, it created this wild glass ceiling for me to see when it came to people. And now I'm a lot older. I look back on them like, damn, we should have left them niggas in Pocosin. You know what I'm saying? We should have left their asses in Pocosin. Cut the bridge off. Let them go the long way. You know?
Right.
And then it's crazy because, like I said, cut the bridge off. That bridge leads right into Newport News. Newport News is nigga town. That's where Michael Vick, Allen Iverson, that's where the niggas is at. And there's a bridge that connects it. Well, cut the fucking bridge then. Same thing with all of it, in a sense, with segregation and integration. Cut the bridge. Make them go the long way. They want to fuck with us, they got to go the long way. You want to have fun with the niggas, you got to go the long way. We want to come over there and fish on your property, we got to go the long way. Period. Right. And everybody just understands space. People don't know how to understand space. Too many motherfuckers like minding the business that don't pay them. It's my favorite saying I've ever had in my life. They mind the business that don't pay them.
Right, right.
And all that integration and stuff was minding business that don't pay them. That's all. But I'm happy that it happened, because then I get to find Steve and we gonna go walk our dogs and then link up, because our dogs liked each other and our dogs don't look alike. You get what I'm saying? Like, our dog was like, your butt smells good. And my dog was like, your butt smells good. And then they was like, can we play? I don't know. Let me ask my mom. And I was like, hey, can your dog play? You get what I'm saying? That's all it took. Yeah. So as long as you got the same mindset, and I guess if your butt smells the same, you know what I'm saying, we can get jiggy.
Here we go. Let's pull this up just quickly. But yeah, this is the origin point for that little fucking meeting. Oh, come on, fucker.
Doing what works for you.
You know, and I'm like, dude, if it was what I told him like early on, like if it was me, you know, what I would do is I would lean into all of the connections that my dad has made. I'd go ahead and be a fucking Nepo kid and fucking, you know, go find a career or at least something fun to do in a different fucking town, you know, because you can do that. I can put him up on couches in fucking 30 different states until he fucking finds his feet, you know.
Right.
Yeah, like we'll see if he leans into it or not, but yeah. Out of all people to make a decent point, Dave Smith made one, and I was shocked by it because Dave Smith usually isn't good at that. But this is funny shit.
Nothing is where it's supposed to be anymore, including me. I'm also not where I'm supposed to be. I know I'm not. Because, like, I'm objectively what I am is I'm a 40-year-old dad. And I feel like as a 40-year-old dad, I should be looking at the younger generation. Like, I should look at a 20-year-old kid, and I think I should feel like I should be like, whoa, these kids are wild. Like, that's the natural order. Is a 40-year-old dad looks at a 20-year-old kid and goes, these kids are out of control. But I'm not doing that. I'm a 40-year-old dad, and I'm looking at these 20-year-old kids, and I'm like, could you stop being such a fucking faggot for like 5 seconds? For 5 seconds. Like, try a drug. Fuck something, you know?
There's a lot of that going on. Huh?
No, I get that shit because kids ain't even doing cool shit no more. 11-year-olds are talking about blowing up their school. And I'm like, when I was 11, you know what I was getting caught doing? Smoking cigarettes that I got from the crackhead at the 7-Eleven. That's what I was doing. I was coming to school smelling like smoke. I was trying to figure out why. I was coming to school. I was fucking making hooch out of the Fruitopias that I was getting the day before. Go to the goddamn soda machine, get me a Fruitopia, put that bitch on my heater. I'm coming back to school in a week talking about some, hey, I got that sauce. That's what I was doing. Okay? Y'all ever had fermented Fruitopia? That shit was good. Okay?
Teal's making fucking Fruitopia Pruno.
Yes. Hooch juice. Hooch fucking juice, bro.
Go back in time a little bit, however, to the late, great Patrice O'Neal, and play one of my favorite little bits. And by little, I mean it's like 10 minutes. Patrice was kind of a big guy. You don't get little bits from a fella that large. So let's wake up with Patrice talking about hate speech.
Is it legal for me to say I endorse hate speech? I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
I want hate speech.
Yes.
Like, why can't I hate you in speech?
Exactly. Why?
I don't understand.
I don't either. Not in this country.
How avarice can look at? You know how much money it take me to go, fuck you, motherfucker, to everybody? 5 million.
Yeah.
5 million is enough to tell. Suck my dick.
Done. So obviously you're getting into the Tracy Morgan thing.
I'm getting into everything. It's all connecting. That's what I was trying to say.
It's all around us.
All connected.
But the Tracy Morgan thing is the big one today.
Well, see, my thing with Tracy is this. I don't fall for no banana and no tailpipe. I don't listen to anybody that says it. I believe the opposite. I try to make the opposite opinion right away.
Yep.
Tracy's been that a long time. Tracy's been frivolous with his performances a long time. He say some ill shit, not just fucking gay and shit. But here's what he's doing now. As simple as this, man.
Mm-hmm.
The game we're in is like jail. You gotta be. There's no rogue, lonely, gunslinger guy in Hollywood. There's no, I do it myself and nobody fucks with me.
Do it my way.
My way. It ain't none of that. You got to be affiliated. Like if you go to prison, you can't go in there and go, hey, I'm just going to read my gun books and, you know, I'm just going to chill out. You got to join something.
Yeah.
And if you don't join something, the guy's going to find out, so who you affiliate with? Well, I'm just chilling out and just hanging.
I'm my own person.
I'm going to rape you. Because you have no affiliations, my friend.
Right.
You're not down with a cartel. So what Tracy, I mean, this is conjecture, but Tracy's just paying what he owe. It's like The Godfather. The guy goes, Godfather, and he goes, well, you never even fucking said hi to me.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here's my deal. I'll do what you want. And when I need you, I'm just going to come get what I need. And he goes, you hear this? Knock on the door. And it's like, you got to pay me back.
Yeah.
Tracy owes a lot of people his career. Because why do you think he can say, now trust me, people that know Tracy, he says some ill shit that he could get in trouble like he is for every day. This time around, he said something, and they said, "Oh, here's a good time." Tracy, yeah, what? What's up? Yeah, you know, you're in deep shit. We gonna make you apologize, but you owe. And the fear that when you owe is that they're gonna take everything from you.
Mm-hmm.
So if they didn't make you, they can't really break you. And you see, I say they. It's the cartels, man. You do not look at gay people
I know
have
exactly
a powerful cartel. I affiliate myself with Jews, low level to mid level Jews, because they deal in money. You pay them dough. You here's your 10. Can I have a little? Can I do my thing over here? Pay you this. I'm not big enough to get in big trouble, So is it possible that I can just do this? Here's your dough. Mm-hmm. And the thing I like about Jews, dealing with them as a cartel, is they don't want you to be Jewish. You don't have to join. You don't have to give anything but what you owe. Mm-hmm. You don't have to fucking, you don't have to fucking go to the parties.
You don't have to put on the yarmulke.
You don't have to do it.
No. Mm-hmm.
So it's a very fair thing. A lot of these cartels, man, you gotta be that.
Got to be in with them. And,
you got to be that. And
believe everything they believe in.
Yes.
Don't speak ill of them.
Yep.
Yep.
And the thing is, Tracy has to pay what he owes. And I knew that when Tina Fey turned on him. Tina Fey has been his great benefactor for many years.
Sure.
So this one thing has turned the tides of Tracy's career, meaning it's made him public enemy number one. When I heard this story past one day, I said, Tracy's the new spokesman for gay shit now.
And that's exactly
we said yesterday,
happened.
Patrice, that they grab you as a hostage.
You don't have to be a hostage.
But he's a hostage to Glad right now, and Glad will let Tracy know when they're done with him.
Then they're not ever going to be done with him, because it's power. It's corruptible, man. Like when a bully takes your money, he don't go, thank you, I just needed it today.
He keeps going.
Tracy had, I don't know how much money he got in the bank, but I would think it's enough to say, no, leave me alone.
Fuck you.
But he sets himself up where Tracy doesn't have, like, if I'm saying this, I'll hear from Tracy, meaning, yo, don't talk shit about, shut the fuck up, nigga. Like, don't, I'm on your side. I know what you're going through, but I made a decision. That's why people go, well, why Patrice isn't? I don't want to owe that much. Mm-hmm. I don't, because there's people that count on me to have like a revolutionary attitude sometimes, just where I argue.
Yeah.
So I let a lot of people down if I put myself in a position to have to flop around on my belly.
Have to be a spokesperson like that, or right.
That's why I talk so much, because I want people to understand what I'm saying. Now, if I talk about gays and talk about anything I have a problem with, I'm going to make sure if they're going to end my career, that it's a muscle move, that it's unfair, that it's not just because Tracy just goes faggots, 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 and more faggots. And if my son was a faggot, and then you go, Tracy, what the fuck? He didn't say nothing to apologize for. Mm-hmm. What are you apologizing for?
Yeah, you were doing your act.
But he's
on a comedy stage.
But the people who make you owe, they go, this guy is setting himself up to owe us big because we're allowing him to feel himself. I'm going to pull my stomach out. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to be drunk. I'm going to fucking get DUIs. I'm going to fall downstairs. I'm going to get a kidney from a bitch and leave her. I'm going to do all kind of shit.
Holy shit.
I'm going to do all kind of shit.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I'm invincible. Then I do something that I do all the time. Faggots. And now, his benefactor. Oh, Tracy. We're disgusted with him. And now they pick him up by the fucking hem of his neck and the back of his drawers and toss him out into every gay thing. Tracy's from the hood.
Yeah. That's why we deal with all
Tracy's from the hood. You understand?
Yeah.
You're now the new, from a guy who just goes faggots to the understanding, delicious spokesman for gayness. Right. You got to watch. These motherfuckers watch TV and see the trends. There's a commercial I hate so much.
I am a student of commercials, by the way.
I hate this commercial so much. I don't know how to approach how much I hate it. Because gay also means happy.
Sure does.
Now, we can play that game, but gay does mean happy. Homosexuals have commandeered the word gay into where it's not happy anymore. Because there's a commercial because the boss of the Phoenix Suns came out the closet. The boss of the Phoenix Suns is gay. And they do a commercial where they're playing basketball and the guy's like, hey, man, you suck. Yep. Hey, man, you ain't nothing. Hey, man, you ain't got no jump shot. And then one guy goes, yeah, your moves are gay.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then he has some of the Phoenix Suns are the spokesman like, hey, man, that's not cool to say that. Gay is... What?
They don't believe that.
Motherfucker, so now... Right. No. Fucking moms. Like, look, here's what we all let happen. We all let context be destroyed.
Yeah.
Context is gone.
And that was...
I can't slip up. I can't say nothing. You can't understand you don't feel me. You don't feel what I'm saying. Look, what he did, I can't go, I can defend that. But I will say this. Here's what happens with Tracy, and here's what can happen. And, I believe in conspiracies, man. Mm-hmm. It just sets people up who want to control everyone, right? Where you go, okay, Tracy, a guy like Tracy, he isn't qualified to have an opinion. Just having an opinion, it should be in the hands of people who are qualified intellectually. So guys like him, if you don't have a degree, they'll start making language elite where you can't have an opinion. But I say Tracy can be as ignorant, as fucked up as he wants to be, because I want to be able to communicate. And if I'm fucked up, let me be fucked up. But I support anything as long as you're not hitting me and robbing me. Right. Hate speech. Why can't I hate you? Why the fuck? But see, the dilemma in my head is this. Back in the 1910s, 8-year-old kids worked in the coal mine or whatever.
Yeah.
And people back then thought that it built character.
Yeah.
But then we go up to our age where our parents hit us. And now we go, that built character when you hit it. So I'm saying, the point I'm making is, maybe I'm antiquated. Maybe I'm thinking old, because I don't think kids should work in coal mines.
Yeah.
But I do think kids should get hit. But now you can't even tease kids in school. It's bullying and
bullying. Very important.
So maybe it's right. Maybe the way the world's going is right. Maybe no bullying. No, because my stepkid was getting bullied in school. My instinct was, tell her to ball her fucking fist up and knock this other bitch in her fucking teeth.
That's what we heard.
Her mother goes to the school, tells the principal, no more bullying. No more bullying. Because bullying is gone now. But is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know what's going on. So maybe being against it is the wrong thing. Maybe being anti the world becoming. I'm in BJ's. I saw a box of a toy kitchen. A boy was on the front. I wanted to scream at somebody. There's a little sissy on the box, on the toe, on the fucking Easy Bake Oven box.
Yeah,
There's a boy.
You know what? I think we're becoming our parents.
What the fuck?
You're right. You can't wrap your head around
Come
something
on.
like that.
You can't wrap your right.
You can't wrap your head around
So
that.
you can't even be angry. You can't quit. Look,
But someone has decided that's okay now in this society to put the boy on that box.
Them. Like we answering to a them.
Yeah,
That's not even. We don't even know.
And we're not part of them, and that's that's our
them,
problem.
We are part of the them. The them is the collective.
Sure.
But
Who's Tracy? Who's LeBron apologized to? Hey, when they wake up, man, they're gonna be them. They're gonna just be
them.
Bubba. When they wake up in the morning, you know. So LeBron, when you said that, were you saying that you're better than people?
Oh, man.
He should look up in the sky for a second and go, yeah.
Because
let's be honest, I am.
Yes,
I am
compared to them. Yes,
I'm better than them.
Yeah.
I'm 25 and worth zillions of dollars for doing something that people are right now in the snow right now. They moved out, they shoveled pavement, and they built a hole in the wall, and they're practicing shooting just to be what I actually am. So how about this? If I'm not liked, how about everybody suck my dick? I got a good account. You can't get my dough. I got some gold buried somewhere. Y'all can suck my dick. You can talk about my mama too. I don't give a fuck. I'm 6'8". My dick is as long as a goddamn rowboat. I probably get my dick sucked in front of my wife. Nothing she could do because she's a fucking loser.
But he backed off from his statement.
Yeah,
he should have went all in.
Of course he did.
No, I know. I understand.
Of course he.
I love it. I do. I wish we had an hour to burn. I'd just play that whole freaking. I'd let it run. Rest in peace, Patrice O'Neal.
Yeah, and so in that same, we were just talking about what controlled opportunism, you know, and this is what she shared with us, by the way. But the interesting point would be that somebody could be in that position without even knowing they're doing that, right? Like it's obviously, as we're pointing out, the evidence is there should they want to look, but they could be being misled or choosing to ignore facts while listening to some mainstream alternative media character. But it's interesting timing, right? And obviously that this
exactly. And I even reached out to her on Substack and I said, hey, are you familiar with Peter Duesberg's work? Are you familiar with David Raznick's work? Are you familiar with what's the other one? Carey Mullis's work? Have you looked into that? Just an honest question. And you would think someone that's studying that would at least, even if you don't respond, you would at least go in and look at the evidence. And if you find something interesting, you might come back and say, hey, thank you for pointing me out to further information. If you're truly being objective, then you're going to look at all the possibilities. If you're deliberately ignoring something, which is what I got, you're not looking for the truth. You have an agenda.
Yeah, I think the whole HIV/AIDS thing is pretty obviously outlined. You know, Mikovits was bringing this up early on, you know, in the COVID-19 timeframe. I mean, it's you know, so I was going to ask you, though, would you call it, you would know more about this in general, would it be called, like, so if you're saying like the COVID-19 injection, when we said the same thing, would you say that causes like HIV, or would you say it causes AIDS? Because isn't it HIV, then AIDS is the lie, sort of like, well, the injection is the thing, and the COVID-19 is the lie. It's really just the same kind of immunodeficiency dynamic. Is that what you call it?
It's the same immunodeficiency. Mm-hmm. It's sort of the whole HIV/AIDS thing, and it's semantics. HIV is supposed to be like the virus that causes AIDS, and AIDS is the condition.
Right.
Even Mikovits will say that HIV does not mean that you have AIDS, and she doesn't even get into the PCR test part of it, but. She at least recognizes that you don't have a disease until you have symptoms. And that is really the key. And that's what they told us with COVID-19 was that it's asymptomatic. So you have to believe that you can spread something without having any sort of symptom, you know, this invisible boogeyman that's going to go around, and you have to be afraid of that and coming in contact with other people. And then what does that do to you psychologically? That's really the psyop. What does that do to you psychologically? Because then you don't want to touch people. You don't want to hug people. You don't want to go around people. Then you still have that further divisiveness about, who agrees with what kind of remedy, and if it's okay to even be around people. We even have, the group of people saying, well, only pure bloods, and I can only be around the vaccinated. Well, that makes you, it kind of puts a divide into families and friend groups, because now all of a sudden you can't love your family because they did something that you don't agree with. Well, since when has that ever been a thing?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the whole pure blood thing drives me crazy because it's all people who had the childhood vaccine schedule. They're being like, I'm a pure blood. No, you're not.
That's a good point.
You're not.
But to be fair, as we all would, I imagine, agree, there are valid concerns about, shedding possibilities, all these things. But I agree completely, Zoe, that that even though you can, the point is we don't know these things for sure in most cases, or that they personally are doing that. And the idea is either way, it's meant to do that, to divide us so we do not work against the only one actually doing this to us. So I completely agree. It's very problematic. So what's your connection to this? Because I'm super interested in this. I'd love your thoughts on measles and the avian flu direction.
Yeah, this has to do with avian flu, as you can see. And I recently found this. So this Thursday, I just started doing an interview series for a Rumble channel. And I interviewed David Raznick. There's 2 interviews. There's one called From AIDS to COVID 1984, which I highly recommend everyone check out. There's another one where we talk about the AZT and how they're still using that for healthcare workers, and the PCR test specifically. We go into debunking the PCR test. But this Thursday, we're going to a farm because I'm doing a special on bird flu. So I was looking into the bird flu stuff, and the farmer there,
you mean to bring that down?
Follows Joel Salatin, and he's the author of, I love the title of this book, Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. He's called the Lunatic Farmer, or he calls himself the Lunatic Farmer. And actually, I just read that he is now on the USDA, which is really weird because he's very anti-government, libertarian leaning. And his team, John Moody is the one. And I think I sent a little thing to Steve. I can't put it in the private chat, so but it's in my channel and it's on my Twitter. It's from John Moody, and it says that bird farmers, chicken farmers, are being paid by insurance when they cull their chickens. Because I kept wondering, okay, I know that the scam is regulatory agency goes to the farm, says, hey, you guys have bird flu here. We need to test your birds. And it's not the farmer saying, all my birds are dying. There's something going on. Please come and help me. That's not happening. What's happening is regulatory agency is going to the farm. In one instance, I heard regulatory agency called the farmer and said, you have bird flu, send us some of your birds. And this farmer was pretty suspicious, sent 4 birds off. I don't know what they did to him, gave him drugs, vaccinated him, something. Came back, he isolated them and did not allow them in with the rest of the chickens, and all 4 died, was what I heard. That's what a subscriber told me. But in most instances, what's happening is they're going to the farm, they're running the PCR test, which they're going to get a false positive. That's how they program it. We go into that with David Raznick. And then they tell the farmer, okay, well, you need to cull. And they come in and they actually help the farmer cull. I even saw Sayer G posting something about how they use this foam method or something. It's so inhumane. And so I thought, well, why wouldn't farmers push back at that point? Because even if you're a commercial chicken farmer, you're not taking care of your chickens properly, which we'll get into that in a second. But that's all your income for multiple years. I mean, you're gonna run with the flock for a couple years at least, but I mean, you're looking at least a year's income, if not more, because that's how long it's going to take you to get back up to that level of production. So why wouldn't a farmer push back on that? Yeah. And so the farmer tells me this from John Moody, that he sees this from John Moody saying that farmers are being paid by insurance. Right. And so then I start looking into this. That makes perfect sense, because there's this documentary called Food Inc. And you can see the conditions that the chickens are in. But more importantly, it's the financial situation of the farmers. These farmers are in debt up to their eyeballs. Their margins are very, very small. And so being told to cull their entire flock, like that would bankrupt them. And then, I mean, they're going to be on the hook for the debt. So it's going to ruin them for life. This is not just 1 year's income. This is complete financial devastation for these farmers.
Well, and in a lot of cases, it's like generational and it's family land. And this is stuff that Slim goes off on all the time.
Yeah, I recently saw an article of a 5-generation farm that was being told to cull all their ducks. And I mean, that was what their whole family did. Everyone was involved in the business. And
Is that still happening?
They're having to shut it down.
Is that still happening now,
makes
Zoe?
perfect sense. This is essentially the CARES Act for avian flu.
Yeah.
What the CARES Act did was it incentivized murder for profit. That's what made doctors murderers in hospitals. It paid them for using the protocol. This is the protocol. You cull all your chickens. Government comes in, and the requirement, and as it says in the Federal Register, is you have to set up a containment area and they have to monitor everything. But you get paid this money if you set up your biosecurity area. That's the stipulation. So this is behavioral modification incentivized for farmers to do this. They would not do this if the government was not paying them to do this. And you look into all the other indemnity insurance, they call it indemnity insurance for farmers. It's a normal thing because these farmers in commercial settings, they're not raising their animals properly. These are the conditions where they're going to get sick, and they're preying on the fact that they know that these animals are in unsanitary conditions that are promoting disease, and they're going to get sick, and they capitalize on that. Like,
but here is William Milton Cooper.
Before we get started, I have to clear up a little discrepancy here. Apparently the other night, or within the last week, because I've been getting a lot of email about this, and I even received one telephone call. Apparently somebody called the Alex Jones broadcast and asked him why he didn't have me on the air, or asked him something about me. Alex Jones said he had me on the air once before, several years ago, and had to cut me off the air because of the foul language that I used. So on the air tonight, I'm going to tell you, Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, miserable, stinking little coward liar.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me say that again so there's no mistake about it. You can all tell Alex Jones that I said this, and I suspect he's listening because he does. Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, stinking, rotten little coward liar. I was only on the Alex Jones show one time. It was years ago when I didn't know who he was, when I didn't realize what a liar and a coward and a sensationalist bullshit artist that he is. He was on one little FM station down in Texas. He wasn't on all the stuff that he's on now. And I agreed to be on his broadcast. That's when I was doing guest appearances on broadcast years ago. I was not cut off. I did not use any kind of foul language whatsoever. He treated me very well, and I stayed on for the whole show. Some of you in Texas know that that's true because you heard the broadcast and you taped it. Later, when I found out who Alex Jones was and what he was doing to the truth, and what a cowardly liar and sensationalist he really is, every time he called me after that, I have always refused to appear on his broadcast. Absolutely refused to lend him any credibility whatsoever by appearing on his broadcast. And that made him very angry. It also revealed him for the lying, sensationalist, bullshit artist that he is by every once in a while bringing to your attention the lies and the deceit and the rumors that he spreads over the airwaves that are not good for any of us, and they're not good for the nation. They are especially not good for militia and patriots. The most disgusting broadcast he ever did was on New Year's Eve, the year 2000, the New Year's Eve, 1999, bringing in the year 2000, which he went completely out of his mind and claimed that Russia had launched intercontinental ballistic missiles with multiple warheads at the United States of America and actually panicked millions of people who were putting their children and their belongings in their cars and heading for the hills. Now, there's lots of things that can be said about me. Nobody needs to lie about me. Sometimes I am irritating. Sometimes I absolutely will not suffer fools and am just as rude as I can be. Nobody has to lie about me, Alex Jones. So I suggest that the next time somebody calls your broadcast and asks them about me, you tell the truth. There's lots of truth that you can tell about me. But don't ever lie on me, buddy, because I'll chop you off at your ankles. I will chew you up. I will spit you out for the lying, stinking, rotten little coward that you are.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely true, man. And I've seen some people, try to say that a lot of the stuff that Bill Cooper said was, he was like an intelligence officer, like for naval intelligence or something. I was like, well, the FBI showed up to his house and shot him to death.
Yeah.
So, clearly he was saying some things that they didn't like.
Yeah. And then Greg, Reese, not Walker, dropped this into the chat. And shout out to Adam Green too from No More News. He was on last week. He'll be back. Love talking to that dude.
But now he's transcended just being about positivity into something messianic, which I mean, if you get a snapshot of Trump, he's a dark person, but also I mean, look. If anybody can be the Antichrist, and I don't think he's the Antichrist, but he's the type of person. Also, Elon Musk. I mean, there's some definite dark energy around Trump, and I know if I was ever controlled opposition, it was unwittingly being sucked into it. And I think the jury's out on Trump, but they are definitely scared of him. So, but
oh boy. Yeah,
Freudian slip there.
Fucking Alex. Remember when that happened?
But being hyperbolic is
Trump
also kind of just the language of the mainstream.
Yeah.
It's control from Gates of the vaccine process. He's then able to get cleaner, weaker vaccines for those that want it. He's then able to keep the economy going and try to break COVID hysteria and the frauds back before the election, which he's now doing through the CDC. He's taking control of. So thank God he's contradicting Redfield. Thank God he's contradicting Fauci. Thank God he's got a new task force of other scientists that are coming out and backing the real science. So Trump's doing everything real behind the scenes and out in the open. But by taking the wind out of their sails, he's got Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, saying, I would not trust anything he says. Do not take a vaccine from Trump. And now because Trump's in control of the CDC, he's getting control. Gates goes, trust my vaccine, but don't trust the CDC's vaccine. And then I went and looked up the ones that Trump's looking at. They're very weak, attenuated classic viruses with a very low amount of adjuvant in it. And what is adjuvant? It makes your body have an autoimmune response. Because a lot of times if a vaccine's weak, which again doesn't hurt you as bad, you're not going to have the autoimmune response. You're not going to form antibodies. So they've got to give you the squalene or the mercury or the aluminum to trigger that. And so, yeah, Trump's looking at basically sugar water for folks. Can we take a little bit of a attenuated, microwaved or radiated COVID deal? Absolutely. COVID's already everywhere anyways. And so I know what Trump's doing. I'd rather him just come out and expose Fauci and expose Bill Gates and expose the Wuhan lab and everything they did. And he's doing it through surrogates. We're doing it right now. But I just still think it is not the route I would take. But I guess I'm not the guy that never ran for office and ran and won, and the guy that turned the whole country around, the guy that's been right about everything and done all this.
I have really good news.
Today, our nation has achieved a medical miracle. We have delivered a safe and effective vaccine in just 9 months. This is one of the greatest scientific accomplishments in history. It will save millions of lives and soon end the pandemic once and for all. I am thrilled to report that the FDA has authorized the Pfizer vaccine.
Insane.
Yep.
I guess there's been rumblings that that's going to be purchased by the Trump Media Technologies Group. So just like digging into her when I was building this web and realizing she was going to be in charge of the Epstein release, I was like, there's no fucking way that this is going to be anything.
Yeah.
Because it just implicates half the people in this fucking web. So-
Hey, Greg, give me a thumbs up when you're ready. All right. So, founder and host of the Reese Report, Greg Reese, joining us.
Hey, guys.
Unexpectedly. Hey, man, it's an honor and a pleasure. I really, really appreciate your work. I do.
Thank you. I thank you. I appreciate it. I love doing it. I love my job.
Yeah. No, it's great to love your job.
And I'm not really familiar with that. I just saw someone I follow. I think that's Orwell's Ghost or something on Twitter. Sending links to this, so I just jumped in. It's rare to hang out with people that don't have their head up their ass these days. 7Z's, I like you a lot on Twitter. You got a lot of cool stuff on Twitter. So thanks for having me in.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here.
Likewise, man. I'm a fan of yours as well.
Without blowing smoke up your ass, and I can bring the map back up here in a second, Seven. But without blowing smoke up your ass, Greg, it was very, very refreshing to see you walk away from InfoWars the way that you did, and the way that you went out in terms of being openly critical of your boss and his overlord.
I appreciate that. I wanted to quit since 2000. I mentioned 2023. I mentioned in the chat that that Alex was very genuine. There was I've been a fan of the show since 2004. There were 2 days in 2023, somewhere in the summer or the fall. That clip I shared with you was part of that, where he went on for an hour each day, and it was one of the most unbelievable moments I've ever. It was probably the most genuine I've ever seen him. And I think he was right when he said, if I was controlled opposition, I would have been tricked. I think he was being genuine. I think he was tricked. He says his family has been involved in the deep state his whole life. He is a bit on Rogan. He says he's kind of retarded. He is. He's got a photographic memory. He's kind of autistic. I think he was used up until the Sandy Hook thing. And then during that year when he gained all that weight, and I think he had a moment of epiphany. And he realized what he was. When I left very quietly. I was kind of hoping that they would fire me because that would help me because I was walking away from $72,000 a year in health and benefits. So I was hoping that they would fire me, and then I could use that to promote my Substack and recoup some of the losses. But eventually, I realized they're never going to fire me. So so then I just quit, and I quit very quietly. And the best thing about it was that people noticed, and because I didn't make a big deal out of it, and I really didn't critique him that bad. Personally, I don't spend any time focusing on influencers or people. I try to focus on the main target. But I feel very grateful because a lot of the internet caught on to it and started retweeting it and talking about it and stuff, which is great because the whole reason I left is I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to be associated with this false narrative pushing bullshit.
Well, no, and that's commendable. And, anybody walking away from, decent money and benefits to stand on principle is very, very commendable. I want to invite you to me and Ryan Cristian, Last American Vagabonds party that we're throwing just north of Nashville in a month. We're doing live music, live stand-up comedy, and live podcasts April 4th through 6th. And Frank Kavanaugh is one of the people who's going to come down and hang out with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You guys are you done with the album, or are you still working on it?
We're working on it still. We've got a couple songs that are being mastered right now, but the whole album probably won't be done until after the financial crash this summer.
The last time he and I were talking, he told me about it, and he did mention that you guys were neighbors, and I'm like, oh shit, dude, that's rad. But yeah, the whole point of the first night is me and Ryan are doing like Willie Nelson's birthday, where like everybody we know in the content creator space that we actually like and trust that plays music gets up and jams out, shit like that. This close to getting Pete Parada from the Defiant up. He's got to check with his wife. It's kid-friendly camping and all that kind of stuff. Beautiful 18-acre property in Portland, Tennessee. It's about 2 miles south of the Kentucky border. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be an absolute rager. And I'm very, like, every day I wake up more excited about this thing because it's, you know, blossoming out a little bit. And it's going to be a ton of fun. So if you can make it, please do. By all means.
Yeah, I'll look into it. I'm making a move cross country in May. So I don't know if I'll be able to, but I might be able to. It sounds fun. If Frank's going, I might be able to tag along with Frank. You know, the reason I want, I think I originally wanted to jump on right now was because I was curious in the chat. I was asking, like, you guys are talking about influencers and stuff. Like I said, I try not to spend much time on it because in my opinion, the whole point of controlled opposition is to get you to talk about them so that you're just distracted by it. However, I am a very curious person. And what I'm very curious about is Andrew Tate. Like, I can understand all the influencers, but he only brings one thing to the table, and that's like his harem pimp women abuse thing. That's all he offers is that. Why is that so important? Why do you guys think that is so important? It's obviously very important. I mean, Trump is trying to get him, you know, pardoned from Romania, and all these people are propping him up. People, all these influencers that you guys are mentioning, they refuse to call him out. Like, what's the game there?
So Andrew Tate speaks to 13 to 23-year-olds. And his influence is like early red pill male mindset type of thing. So he's literally shaping people whose brains haven't fully formed yet. And with his CIA dad and his, you know, complete controlled opposition self, what he's doing is interjecting this sort of like manoverse mindset into the hearts and minds of the next generation of young men.
For sure he is. Yeah.
And I have a son who's turning 19 next week. And I remember when he was like 16, 17, you know, he was showing me, he would send me Instagram reels of Andrew Tate, and I would have to like break down why it's bullshit and how it's bullshit and how it's damaging to the mind of a young man. And he caught on pretty quick because he's a pretty sharp kid. But I think that's the operation right there, is to instill that sort of abusive, narcissistic, unreachable personality into young men.
I see that. Like, that's the result. I'm just wondering, like, why is that important? Why are they? Is it just destruction? I have a hard time just saying it's all for destruction. Like, it seems like they're trying to shape a future generation, like you said. And like, I don't have a family, but I prefer to live in areas where there are families because they're safer and they're nicer and they're more wholesome. You know, I grew up in a nice family and stuff like that. That's a good thing, you know, and to try to change that into some kind of like, you know, I don't know what it is, like hardcore Islamic type of, you know, culture is just, I don't get it.
Well, I kind of think of like the idea of celebrity as a technology, you know, like an operating system that you can install so that they'll appeal to certain like demographics of the viewing. So they're kind of like a technology that's installed to pacify a certain number of the viewers in a taint by association negative kind of impetus for having us like bow at the feet of a celebrity rather than return to community, like you were saying. So yeah, like it is just that as an ongoing construct that we're bumping up adjacent to all the fucking time, and then we have to deal with the people who bow to them.
Yeah, that's a good point, because what Tate is like, he's like a rapper. He's like, hey boys, all you got to do is make billions of dollars, and then you can do whatever the hell you want, and you can treat people like shit. It's great, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of multifaceted too, because you think about how he stokes like the gender division that's going on, and like you should treat women like shit and blame them for everything that's going on wrong in your life. You should chase materialism. He's talking about blaming. He's outspoken about Israel, which is a problem, but it's only a piece of the problem, where, we have this whole technocratic transhumanism thing. So don't look over here. Let's, look over here, and everything like that, just sort of capturing that. And I think he had announced like his intention to run for Prime Minister of the UK even.
Yeah.
So like using that influence and stuff as well to position himself as a popular candidate, or even a populist candidate for office. They may end up running him as like a Trump 2.0 over there.
I wouldn't be surprised. I was at one of the Tucker Carlson tours. He was on tour, I guess, last year. I went to the one with Alex Jones in Pennsylvania. First of all, they were charging to get close up. It was $500 a ticket. Unbelievable, the amount of money they're raking in. But what was interesting, and I wish I got video of it, but I didn't. But it was sponsored by a sleep aid, and so for like an hour before the show started, there was just the big screens were just like dream, sleep. It was like out of They Live, And I remember at the time I was still on the fence because the election or the selection didn't happen yet, and I was on the fence up until the selection. I was like, well, let's just see who they select. And whoever they select will tell me what's going on. But I noticed the sleep and dream and stuff, and I was like, this isn't a very good look,
Like hypnotizing.
Yeah.
Dude, I from 2021, maybe 2022, I started talking about how they have to have Trump 2.0 in order to ensure the digital prison grid and like his particular backers and stuff like that. And then watching Elon throw 270 million or whatever at the campaign, allegedly, because there's no way we actually know whether or not he legitimately gave him that money. I would assume he did, because now he's Rasputin in the background. But I don't think that you get the kind of digital prison with people cheerleading it without Trump.
No, not just without Trump, but without the whole thing. Like,
yeah,
Trump won, and then an old guy shitting his pants in the White House that most people think is actually in charge, and then Trump 2. And then right out of the gates, he's talking about Greenland and Canada. That Greenland and Canada would never, ever, ever fly an inch if it wasn't for this whole psyop that we've been going through for the past 8 years. But because everyone's so traumatized and blown away, it's like, oh, whatever he says, I guess. Greenland, Canada, yeah, sure.
And it just happens to coincide exactly with the map of the North American technate that Elon Musk's grandfather helped create back in the 30s. That's cute. It's cute.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy because, even looking back to the 2016 election, Hillary would have never been able to shut the country down. Like, COVID would have never happened as far as it did with her. So it's like they put up the most well-positioned, established candidate that they possibly could to like posit him as an outsider, so that when it happened, people would believe that it was all real. And I think it just goes to, they're always going to use those populist candidates now to convince people that what's happening is good for them, and goes right back into that manufactured consent sort of concept.
Yeah. And that's what we've done, man. And years ago, when I came up with, or as far as I know, came up with the whole manufacturing consent thing, it was because after 9/11 and the Patriot Act was signed, consent had been manufactured. Like, but now what the job of the media is to manufacture confusion. So we've had a media apparatus that manufactures confusion on a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year basis, where you've got counter-reinforcing propaganda driving you into the exact same lanes that they need you to be in order to accept the nonstop bullshit and ongoing psyops that are being force-fed down your fucking throat every single day. And so sorry, I said manufacturing. It's manufacturing confusion. That's the primary purpose. And I think that Andrew Tate falls into that category very, very well, because he'll leave people stunned, angry, confused, and or accepting of what his bullshit is, because he quite literally bullies people into trying to think the way that he does, which is destructive, which is absolutely an inversion of what a man is supposed to be and how a man is supposed to live and what a man is supposed to do for his family. Andrew Tate has no fucking regard for children whatsoever. None. He bangs them, you know. How could you care about a family if you're out there fucking a 15-year-old kid?
Yeah.
I have a theory as to what's going on that explains everything, but you have to be a complete tinfoil hat lunatic like myself.
You're in the right place, Greg.
Yep.
So first of all, you have to picture that we might potentially live on a flat, motionless plane inside of a sphere rather than outside of a ball flying thousands of miles through space. And then you have to imagine that the sun and the moon are local and that they're like the yin yang, and they're and then you have to imagine that what we call Antarctica, the ice wall, is simply the frozen edge that is outside of this local sun and moon. The sun and the moon create an ecosphere that's livable, and outside of it is a massive frozen ice block, right? And then you have to imagine that if you look down upon this whole thing, that we're like almost like on a clock face. And you could look at a Prague. If you were to search like flat Earth clock in Prague, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's these clocks, and one's in Prague that moves according to the great year. And the great year is 26,000 years. And so what I think is happening is about every 2,000 years, when we flip from right now, we're going from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. This ecosphere, this sun and the moon, this yin yang shifts, what you call a pole shift. And when it shifts, the frozen ice wall moves. Certain areas are going to thaw out. Certain areas are going to freeze up. You're going to lose land. You're going to gain land. You're going to have water, more water or less water in some areas. Russia is, I was living in Russia for 6 months, and they're openly talking about this. They're saying a pole shift is coming in our lifetimes. They're saying Siberia is going to thaw. They're spending billions of dollars up in the Arctic, right across the way from Greenland, by the way. They're spending billions of dollars up there building infrastructure because they're openly saying that they're going to get more land from a pole shift. Everyone knows it there. I was at a bar in Moscow talking to a 20-year-old, and he knew all about it. I'm like, have you ever heard about this pole shift? And he's like, oh, yeah. And he was telling me about this pole shift. And so it's very interesting. Here in the West, where like Edgar Cayce and several other people predicted is going to take a real hard hit from this thing, we're going to lose land. It looks like what's happening here is like a liquidation and a consolidation. That to me explains Greenland and Canada. They're trying to prepare for a massive loss of infrastructure, whereas Russia is preparing. They want more people. They're motivating people to breed and have families the right way, the proper way. And that also explains Tate to me, because through this transition, it's going to be very difficult. And through this entire transition, it's going to be a very tricky thing for some people like us. And so Tate is creating this sort of heartless, animalistic type of generation that will serve them through this transition. And then I imagine once we're fully into the age of Aquarius, things will probably lighten up, and the farmers who run this place will say, okay, let's let the people thrive a little bit more now, and we can farm them for whatever the hell they're farming us for. But that's basically the short of it. That's what I think is going on. And if you can accept that these things are possible, especially the whole geocentric flat surface thing, it really explains absolutely every single last piece of what's going on, in my opinion.
Well,
Yeah,
whether it's or sorry, if you want to go ahead.
I was just gonna say it plays right into the like whole golden age thing that they're positioning now and saying there's going to be an age of abundance and stuff. And I think it's because we're going to have some sort of event like that happen where things are going to shift very drastically, whether it's like a false flag or what that looks like. But I agree with you, Greg.
Yeah, I think that is the golden age. It's going to be, and I think there will be a golden age, and I think they will let out some of this energy stuff that's been, and I think AI has been around forever, and it's an ancient thing, and they're just letting it out. They're just letting these things out for two reasons. One, it's going to help them through the shift. I would imagine every 2,000 years these things come out, and that's why you're like people that are in the know are able to predict these things, because they're like, oh, this is going to happen. And these things are all going to come out, and then there'll be this restructuring, and then when things settle down, then the big question I have is, what are they farming us for? And I'm open-minded. I don't think they're eating us. Some people say that's for the loosh, maybe, but it might be for our innovation. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree with the general kind of like overarching storyline. You can view it from any number of different lenses to kind of account for what that basic story is, using all those different lenses for the same thing, which is kind of order out of chaos and the emergence of, I almost think of like human beings as the crust of consciousness on the planet, which is itself a much deeper consciousness of which we are entwined. And that as these various different cracks or ruptures happen in mankind, we sort of spew forth whatever it is they're kind of like loosh farming us for. And is it our innovation? Is it our creativity? I think that actually the determinant of what the future becomes on the level that we can influence, not necessarily the actual consciousness of the planet itself, but rather of us. I think that's by the choices that we make, the things that we create, and then the kind of like moral objective framework that we then navigate in order to co-create a different future together. I wonder about the fatalistic side of the cycles of like Kali Yuga and all those other kind of like fatal events that might be the chaos from which order springs afterward. I don't know if our consciousness is able to influence or affect the inevitability of that. So it might be one of those like things where we have to go into it in order to come out of it. I find it interesting that if you look at some of Casey's projections, he'll talk about like the year 2100 when he's supposed to reincarnate and is touring New York, which is then underwater and everything. But then there's also the other side of the coin, which is that in the period of time when he was making that prediction, he was being litigated against for practicing medicine without a license or something. And if you look at the correlation or correspondence between the most negative or inaccurate prophecies given by psychics, it's always overlaid by some sort of dampening field of whatever adversity they're facing. So it's an interesting idea of casting our projections into an etheric kind of like realm of consciousness about what it fatalistically, definitively will be when we ourselves may co-create it in the aggregate based on our creative and moral decisions moving forward. So it's one of those things where it sort of loops back on itself. Are we co-creators? Are we arbiters? What level are we at in determining that future? And might there be a better way for us to create something that can actually see positive order come out of that chaos?
I can tell right away that we're basically on this very similar page.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Where I'm at now is back to thinking that the most important thing that any of us could do at this point is to start focusing within and what we can do on a because I do think that we have, I think especially those of us that can see what's going on, I think we're aware that there's some type of divine spark behind these eyes looking out at the world, and there's more to us than just this skin suit animal that we're walking around in.
Yeah, I think it's, you see this sort of thing that connects us all, that, whether you believe in like a higher power or what that looks like. I think there's something innate within most of us that is like what drives us to be empathetic and passionate and have like generosity, goodwill towards other people. And that, even if it's against your own self-interest, there's something there that, whether you want to call it a soul or a spark or, just a humanity itself, I think that that's lacking in a lot of the people that are, driving the world the way that they're trying to steer it for this. And, just speaking to like the messianic prophecy pushers and stuff in the Kabbalah, they say that, some people have two sparks, and we have to shed the husk of the, I guess, whatever you want to call it, the Gentiles, the nations, in order to reach that age of enlightenment. And I think they may end up manufacturing like some sort of apocalypse to go along with that pole shift that you were talking about.
Well, and not to beat a dead horse, but like the whole reason that we're doing the Third Eye Carnival stuff and trying to replicate it out is because it's I realized a couple of years ago, it's incumbent on us to create the culture that we want to live in instead of being forced to react to the culture that's been forced on us.
Yeah. We could do that anytime we want, really.
Yeah, well, we're doing it right now. We're doing it. You know, the whole point of this show, other than doing morning radio for people who don't have their heads up their ass, is, you know, to kind of build out that community and really in 3 dimensions, if not 5 dimensions, build that culture that we want to live in, because we do have the choice to do that. We still have, you know, free will as far as that goes. And we have the means, we have the technology, we have the motivation, we have the brains, we have the innovation. We can fucking do this. We don't have to listen to people who are telling us to go put a chip in our heads or some Trump juice in our body or any of that shit. Like, we're still free men.
Uncle Slayton's got his Texan pride, back in the thickets with his Asian bride. He's got an Airstream trailer and a Holstein cow. Still makes whiskey cause he still knows how. He plays that Choctaw bingo every Friday night. You know he had to leave Texas, but he won't say why. He owns a quarter section up by Lake Eufaula. Caught a great big old blue cat on a drifting jug line. Sells his hardwood timber to the chipping mill. Cooks that crystal meth because the shine don't sell. He cooks that crystal meth because the shine don't sell. You know he likes that money, he don't mind the smell.